Welcome back to ID Fitness Podcast. Today's episode isn't a surface level health talk. This is a deep dive into what happens when the usual answers don't work and someone is forced to go looking for truth. We're talking about functional blood work, hidden inflammation, hormone chaos, mold exposure, immune dysfunction, and fertility struggles. And we're going after the questions so many people ask after appointment after appointment. Why am I being told, quote unquote, I'm fine, when I know I'm not? Our guest is a functional health practitioner, Andrea, whose own health collapse sent her down a road of investigation, faith, root cause healing. In this conversation, we talk about how overlooked infections, toxic load, liver function, gut health, and hormone misfires can drive real symptoms that people are too often told to ignore or just medicate. And we don't dodge the hard stuff either. Miscarriage, infertility, shame, spiritual healing, and how physical health and faith are more connected than most people realize. If you ever felt dismissed, if your labs were quote unquote normal, but you still felt terrible, or you just know something deeper was going on, this episode's for you. Before we dive in, this is not medical advice. It's meant to educate you and help you think deeper about your health alongside your healthcare team. So let's get into it. I didn't even know. So you coach the softball team here?
Yeah, I just volunteer at Oxford, but yeah.
What?
I know. I do like way too much.
That is, so is it the high school team?
Yeah.
Now, what do you do with that?
I'm their pitching coach.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
So you and Joel are like a dual team task team.
Well, I think you know this, right? Like we met, I was a Division I head college softball
Did not know
coach.
this.
Okay. Yeah. So we met when I was coaching at Belhaven University down in Jackson, Mississippi. That was my first college coaching job. And then I went from there to be the head coach at East Tennessee State University. So I moved and we had kind of just started dating. Long story short, I was like, hey, this is D1 head job. Like, this is my dream. I was like 25 years old. It was like, I was super young and it was really exciting. And I was like, I love you, but I mean, I got to go, right? So he ended up following me later. He got a college job up there in East Tennessee. And then his career started taking off. So then I left college coaching in 2010 so that because we were living 5 hours from each other, coaching at two different like D1 universities. And I was like, okay, this is not going to work.
No.
But so I felt like I gave up my dream, but it was cool because, like that ended up leading me to getting to do what I do now. But yeah, that was my background, was like fitness,
I did not know
nutrition, D1 coach. I played college softball. So softball's terrible in Oxford, like terrible.
Yeah.
And there's nobody here that really knows a lot outside of like Ole Miss's staff.
Yeah, it's not that popular here.
But they just don't, Ole Miss's staff doesn't really get outside of their Ole Miss bubble to like do anything in the community to help the sport grow.
Yeah.
And so the lady that is the head coach at Oxford got wind through some people. She knew I used to coach at Belhaven. Like, she knew I used to be a college coach, and she just like reached out probably thinking I'd say no. And she was like, what are the odds of you coming out? Just maybe one day a week. So one day a week has led to me going out 5 days a week, fifth block, to work with their pitchers. So
that is so cool.
I just can't halfway do anything.
I know it.
Which is like a curse.
But it's like, I'm so glad that you're doing that because you took a break from that.
I did.
And then now you're going back to it.
Yeah, it's cool. So anyway.
Now, are you seeing progress now since you're being over there?
Yeah, the girls have been so grateful because they've never had anybody that's ever taught them anything, And so they've been so grateful to have somebody that's like in their corner. Pitching is its own beast in the sport of baseball and softball both, right? And in softball, nobody knows anything about pitching really in this whole community. And so it's been nice to like feel like that those gifts and talents have been valuable and used,
Yeah.
But I just volunteer because if they start paying me, they'll start telling me what to do.
I'm with you on that. It's like, I like this as a hobby.
I'll be your best volunteer you have ever seen, but do not give me any money, So I go over there for about an hour and 20 minutes every day and work with, and just kind of have a schedule to train the pitchers. But yeah, so anyway, side note, we can get rolling with this. I didn't mean to take up time talking about that.
No, we're already rolling.
Oh, okay. Okay, awesome.
So you're good.
Okay, perfect.
So tell me a little bit more about what got you in to functional blood work. Obviously, we talked a little bit more about it, like your mold exposure back in 1997. When did that turn for you? You briefly touched base on it, but I want to dive deeper into the weeds of that.
I just think it's one of those things where you go off to college and you're on your own. I was living in a dorm and I just didn't know any different, but I literally stayed sick all the time. And I was a pretty healthy kid. I never really was on a lot of antibiotics growing up, like really up to that point. But I will tell you that starting my freshman year in college, between antibiotics and steroids and just upper respiratory infections, sinus infections, and things like that, I mean, it seemed like a never-ending cycle. And I look back on it now, and my dorm room was literally in the bottom basement of the old football stadium at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. So, I mean, you're already in the South, where we know mold is really prevalent, like high humidity type areas. And then you're in a basement. And you could literally smell it. When I think back now, like you could literally walk in and smell it, like in the bathrooms in your dorm room. But I mean, this was 1997. Nobody was talking about mold illness. So I just thought that I had gotten upper respiratory infections and it was just a natural thing that I was just going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. But that eventually led to 2 sinus surgeries and me investigating what in the world is going on, because this should not be lingering for this long. And that's what took me down a rabbit trail.
Yeah. Now, when you talk about, is it like, were you getting sinus infections, colds? Like, were you just getting all of that?
All of it. And I think like as an athlete, I mean, I was a Division I athlete. Like I was in elite shape doing training and lots of different things, but my performance really struggled because my oxygen levels were being sacrificed. I mean, when you really think about upper respiratory infections and how that impacts just your ability to breathe and handle, especially the cardiovascular type workouts that we were doing at that point, I really found myself even doing like a time mile. I mean, it was just, I had to really like talk myself up to be able to mentally do those tasks because I knew how challenging they were going to be. And it was just so frustrating that I felt like I was in really good shape, but I just couldn't keep up. And like looking back now, thinking about how my sleep was suffering, I couldn't sleep good at night because I was a mouth breather. I couldn't breathe through my nose.
Yeah.
So you think about how that's going to impact so many different things. And then your energy levels, gosh, I mean, I look back now and that's when Ripped Fuel and a lot of these thermogenics really were hitting the market, Hydroxycut. And I would reach for any kind of like high caffeine, any kind of pill, anything. And looking back now, it really this is kind of a story for another day, but it really kind of led me down, I would say, like a diet pill addiction.
Yeah.
Because then you get into taking a lot of those medications that like almost like the steroids and stuff that really kind of help you breathe, but you know how they can kind of make your heart race a little bit.
Yep.
Well, you kind of feel a little high off that, right? And then I noticed metabolically, I wasn't very hungry. So now I'm a D1 athlete. I'm not eating as much as I should because I'm taking all these steroids that are kind of suppressing my appetite. So then I kind of noticed some weight change and I was like, oh, well, that's okay, right? Like I'm looking a little bit thinner and obviously that impacted my performance. But I mean, it's like all of those things, you just finally stop and you look back and you go, what in the world was I doing? I didn't know any better. Nope. And there was nobody there telling me that the food I was eating or anything I was doing could also be impacting inflammation. So, I mean, it's just the compound effect of so many things. Mold is never the starting point. Mold will always shine a light on things that are already in the body, a dysregulated immune system. So there were already things going on in my body, even though I felt like I was a healthy kid. I mean, I'm sure my gut was wrecked back then, thinking about the things that I ate and, just environmental exposure. But on top of that, mold just really shined a light and brought a lot of things to light and then just showed how dysregulated my immune system was. And the thing about mold is when you're living in it, it's like a constant hammer. And it's just pounding on your body. And even though I eventually moved out of that situation, I wasn't living in that dorm anymore, I still came in contact with mold, other times throughout the next probably 20 years of my life. And every time I did, it was like another sledgehammer just dropped on my body. And so, like most people, you get to a breaking point.
Yeah.
And something has to change.
Yeah.
So
now, when you talked about like the pills, when did you start to notice like, oh, I'm starting trying to get energy from that? Because like you said, you don't really know the cycle you're in until you're in it. And then you're like, I'm not getting this food. I need energy. So I go to caffeine and these pills because they're actually giving me something to ramp my body back up. When did you start to notice like, okay, well, this is not good?
Well, to be honest, I had to have an ambulance come pick me up at a workout in, it was August. It was the fall, and it was probably about 100 degrees and, in East Tennessee area.
Yeah.
And we were doing a really tough conditioning workout, and I literally fell out. And that day, it was probably 3 or 4 in the afternoon. I would say at that point, I had been using, I call them diet pills, but I mean, you can call them thermogenics. Back then there was a lot of stuff that wasn't regulated like it is today, and people were literally dying of heart attacks, right? If you remember back during that, like 98, 99 to early 2000s, a lot of that stuff eventually got pulled off the shelves because of what happened to people. But the heart palpitations, like that was kind of like a rush for me. Like I never thought twice about how that was really the dehydration effect or just the underfueling or any of that. But I fell out during conditioning one day, and they had to, they put me in an ice bath, literally in the ambulance, and my resting heart rate was 200 beats per minute.
Holy cow.
I got to the ER. They had to put about 8 bags of fluid in me. It was really scary. I mean, I remember being in the ambulance, being driven there, and my sister played college softball with me, so they let her get in the ambulance and ride with me. So she tells the story because I was kind of out of it. But she said I was actually witnessing to the guy driving the ambulance because I literally thought I was dying. And I was thinking, like, in this moment, I need to tell this guy about Jesus, which is so funny looking back on that. But all that to be said, even at that period in time in my life, I mean, I was probably 22. I think I was just still too young and dumb and immature, and I was just still too concerned about body image to really even know how dangerous that was.
Yeah.
But then I look at my body later in life, and I see kind of how you and I have talked about even training maybe that we did 20 years ago and how it can still impact our liver today. And I look back on that and I see that, like, using a lot of those over-the-counter drugs to, whether it was like give me energy or feel that rush or weight loss, whatever it was stuck in my body for a lot longer than I probably ever realized.
Yeah. And what's interesting, as I was answering your questionnaires when we did my blood work with you, is I was looking back, I'm like, I don't remember ever my mom not giving me medicine for even if it's a fever. Like, get it down. We don't want the immune system. We don't want your help at all. We want to be able to do it with medicine. And again, that's what she knew. That's what she was taught. And hindsight's 2020 when you look back. But
right.
But talk a little bit about how that affects your liver by constantly being on antibiotics, which not all are bad, but when you're just fighting a simple cold or a fever, what does that look like?
Well, I think the first thing is, so many things people deal with, even sore throats, are viral. And most people are going into a doctor's office and they're not even being tested, and they're being put on an antibiotic. So I've even seen people get positive mono tests, and mono is a virus, and they'll be put on an antibiotic. And I'm just over here like, what are we doing? RSV, a virus. And why are we putting babies on antibiotics, right? So I think the first thing I would say to that is we need to make sure it's even a bacterial infection. A lot of people don't even know.
Can you distinguish those? Because a lot of people don't know that. What's the difference between a bacterial infection and then a virus?
Well, a bacteria is a pathogen, and it's a living organism in our body. And bacteria is not a bad thing. Kind of like what you said, one of the reasons we totally dysregulate our immune system as kids is we never even give it a chance to allow that bacteria to naturally grow, the right kind of bacteria, because we're constantly wiping it out with, whether it's an antibiotic or even over-the-counter stuff can mess with that too. And then viruses, once they're in your body, they're in your body forever. Viruses replicate in your body, and just like you could get mono as a teenager and then as an adult have Epstein-Barr because they replicate, right? They can replicate as the flu. And this is why during the COVID time, people were so freaked out, because I think people that really understood viral replication understood how devastating that could be in a sick body, and kind of how a lot of people would say, well, they had underlying issues, right? Well, the scary thing about a virus is it will wake up underlying issues when it replicates. So if you've already got bad kidneys, a bad liver, a bad pancreas, like gut issues, different things going on that are really serious, and then you get this viral load that you don't control properly because your body can't handle it, then it just starts replicating, right? And so then that's how it can mess with our cellular health and different things like that. bacteria, parasites, funguses, right? Like they can be killed. They can be driven out of the body, right? And so that's like the biggest difference I think people don't understand. But now I would say just use strep as an example, okay? Like you go in and you test positive for strep and you decide you want to get on penicillin. Strep is a antibiotic resistant, opportunistic bacteria. What does that mean? It's going to resist the antibiotic. It's not going to kill it. Okay, so what is it going to do? It's just going to keep driving it deeper and deeper in the body. And this is how I get a lot of women, they think it's like perimenopause, menopause. They've got anxiety, depression, lots of different mood disorders, and they're totally blaming it on their hormones. And I'm looking at them and saying, you had strep as a kid multiple times, and then you had your tonsils out and different things, and you kept taking antibiotics that weren't actually killing that strep. Kind of the same with like H. pylori, Lyme bacteria. There are these opportunistic bacteria that just your traditional like therapy with like antibiotics is not going to impact. And I think that that's where there's a big misconception because people, why are they reoccurring? Why is a UTI reoccurring? Why is a sinus infection reoccurring? Because the same bacteria that causes strep causes these other issues in the body, like these other infections. And it just drives it into hiding and then it comes out in a different way, right? So you get strep as a kid, you never correlate it causing a UTI later in life. Or you get strep as a kid, you never realize that it caused sinus infections later in life because you just think it's isolated to your throat. So I think when you talk about antibiotic, and yeah, there are definitely times that I think people get mouth infections sometimes, they get sepsis, they get some scary stuff going on, right? Like I think that there's a time and a place for an antibiotic. But a lot of these other treatments, they're just ripping up our immune system. And the antibiotic is just pushing that bacteria deeper into the body. It hides out, it creates biofilm around it, which just basically hides it from the immune system. So the immune system doesn't even know it's there, right? So that's how it stays in our body for decades. And then people wonder, gosh, all of a sudden I just got sick when I was 35, you know? And they never think about the fact that like they've had something in their body probably since they were 8.
Yeah.
And they just assume that penicillin they went on or those tonsils that got cut out solved the problem, you know?
I've never heard somebody explain it like that. Like I've heard bits and parts of people explain that, but like, I guess never differentiated that, the virus and bacteria. That is so fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And me and you talked about this last time. We talked about people getting their tonsils out and how that is actually a filter of your body. Is there a right time to get your tonsils taken out? Or is this like telling you like, hey, no, something else is wrong?
I kind of look at tonsils like I do the gallbladder. That's another body part that I feel like is very easy to just go, hey, we're just going to cut it out, right? Tonsils had a purpose. God gave them to us for a reason, just like the gallbladder or an appendix, right? You think about these things that can be removed, but yet you can still survive, right? But how are you really surviving? I mean, I think I explained it to you. I just replaced the filters. We have 2 air filters that we use in our home just because we have an upstairs unit and a downstairs unit. And so every time I take those, we have they're big filters with our house. We pay high dollar to do the filters that will like filter out mold spores, all the things. Like if we're going to spend money on a filter, we want the best filter, right? I'm replacing them last night and I'm looking at the old filters. I'm pulling it out and I'm like, oh, you know, like that's gross. Yep. They're like gray and they're in black and they're supposed to be white, you know? And so I just think about our body when we don't have tonsils. And your lymphatic system, which is the only system in your body that doesn't have a pump. Okay. So we have drainage systems, right? You and I've kind of talked about drainage pathways a little bit. And the lymphatic system is one of multiple drainage pathways we have in the body, but it's the only one that doesn't have a pump. So this is why you hear people talk about lymphatic drainage, lymphatic massages, gua sha, like, you know, just different things, dry brushing, right? All these things. It's because people a lot of times have to do manual movement on the lymphatic system. Well, the tonsils, when you don't have a filter, it's basically like a swimming pool with no filter. is what the inside of your body will end up looking like if you don't do things to take care of it. Now, I get a lot of clients that don't have tonsils, and they'll come to me later in life and they never done anything to filter their body. And so we have to start and work on that before we can do anything else, because it's kind of like a murky, nasty swimming pool that didn't have, like, that's what that lymphatic system will, it's just real stagnant, right? And so when you think about that and you think about cutting the tonsils out, I think there are so many other options. Like the first time somebody gets strep, you need to address it properly so that you don't get to a point where you're dealing with having that conversation with a doctor. And then also, when you have to have that conversation with a doctor, you should not feel gaslit or pressured or any sort of way negative. If you want to pause and say, you know what, doc, I want time to think about this, whether it's me or my child. And I want to do some research and talk to some people. I love when people come to me and say, Andrea, what do you think about this? Like, we just left the doctor and they're telling us we need to get Johnny's tonsils out, right? And I love having that conversation, because when people are educated, they're empowered to stand up against these traditional practices in medicine that may not actually be best for them or their child.
That is so fascinating. And I like how that as you're talking, you're giving the parents their power back. Like, you don't have to walk in there intimidated. Like, they're giving their information based off how they have learned. And then you also need to take into consideration your kid and what you've known, and you're trying to be a team. It's not person just telling you what to do with your own kid. Is that right to say?
Yeah. And I think this is the other way I would put it. I get clients that come to me and they ask for my professional opinion, but then they may choose to go a different route. And so I just tell them that if you're going to have your gallbladder removed, if you're going to have your appendix removed, if you're going to have your tonsils removed, if you're going to have a hysterectomy and have your entire female system removed, right? Then you need to know that after that, there are steps you have to take to support your body for the rest of your life, because those things had a job to do. And so again, if people want to make that decision, they still need to be educated on the things they need to be doing supporting their body. I get people all the time that haven't had a gallbladder and they don't even know why it was taken out. But here's the thing about gallbladders and talking about things being removed out of the body. Your liver will typically get built up with stones before your gallbladder gets built up with stones. And so if you're going to go in and remove the gallbladder and never work on your liver and never give your body good bowel support ever again, then you have to know there's going to be a price to pay later in life, because that's going to continue to build up, because it was never the gallbladder's fault in the beginning. The liver got built up and never got drained properly, and you just continued to hammer it for whatever reason, right? And these stones calcify and they build up. And so again, I think people just need to be educated. That's fine. That's your body. That's your decision. That's your conversation with your doctor. But if you're going to do those things, you need to be prepared to support the systems that you just removed.
Yeah. Now, my mom, I'm pretty sure, got a hysterectomy. Is that how you say it? What do you think some of the misconceptions there, and speak on that as a woman studying that?
Absolutely. I mean, I battled what I hate to use this term, but hellacious menstrual cycles. And I have to just say it that way, because I mean, it was like hell on earth for a week every month since I was like 14, 15 years old. I mean,
now, what do you mean by that? Like symptoms?
Just symptomatically, the cramping would be so bad that like I would about be in fetal position.
Oh, wow.
Like sitting at a desk in high school, right? Just like trying to manage that pain internally, but trying to push through too, because like you're just kind of made to feel like you're weak or something's wrong with you, you know? And then like really heavy bleeding, right? Where I get emotional thinking about the story in the Bible of the woman who was considered unclean because she bled every day for like 10 plus years, right? And she was like, if I can just touch your garment, I know that I can heal you. And like when I see that scene in the movie Chosen, it just like wrecks me, because that is so many women in our world today are dealing, and so many teenage girls, young girls, it starts younger and younger, with these terrible menstrual cycles. And I start by that talking about the hysterectomy, because that's really where it starts. And then what ends up happening with these women later in life is they just get their whole female system cut out, their whole reproductive system, because the doctor's kind of like, well, I don't know what to do with you. I've put you on birth control, right? I've checked you for PCOS. I've checked you for thyroid issues and all these things, right? And it's like they can't figure out what it is. And so then women are still having all these hormonal issues, not realizing that hormones are converted in the liver. And, hormone health has a lot to do with inflammation and immune system and gut health, right? I mean, like there's so many things that tie into it. Nobody's talking to women about that. I have a 13-year-old daughter. And so I educate her on, even with her menstrual cycle, like what is normal and what is not normal. I mean, when I was growing up, it was like it's normal to feel like you're going to bleed to death and have cramps so bad you can't compete as an athlete hardly, right? And just go take Midol, Tylenol, whatever, try to get through it, put a heating pack on it. And then this day and age, they just throw you on birth control. That was never an option for me. I've personally never been on birth control. That's kind of a story probably for another day, but just my personal beliefs as a Christian woman, messing with conception and God's plan just didn't resonate well in my spirit. And so I am grateful that for whatever reason, God planted that seed in my heart many, many years ago. And so I never went down the birth control path. But I do have a lot of women that, they'll be on birth control for 20, 25 years. And then all of a sudden they're getting a hysterectomy and they don't understand why their hormones are so crazy because they've, in a synthetic way, taken away what God provided for our body when it comes to hormone health. Because, birth control suppresses all that, right? And nobody thinks about the fact that like, okay, well now I'm 45, about to go through menopause, so I don't really need to be on birth control anymore, so I'm just going to go off of it. And their body literally goes haywire. And they just say, oh, it's just perimenopause. I really hate the perimenopause term. Now, I'm not saying that women aren't having issues. And a lot of them are being gaslit into believing that they're not having issues, right? I'm not saying that. I just think perimenopause can really be thrown around a lot. And it's not really perimenopause. It's underlying other things that are going on that are creating those symptoms, right?
Yeah, it's like the engine light on your car. It's just like, hey, something's wrong. Here's the symptom.
Yep.
But you need to dive actually in the engine and the parts and see what's actually going wrong. Is that how you would say it?
Yeah, absolutely. We just choose to put a piece of tape over our check engine light. Like I'm just going to keep driving my car and pretend like that light's not on because I either A, don't want to have to invest financially into whatever it's going to take to fix it. B, I don't have the time to fool with that right now. I'm too busy. I got to get from point A to point B. So let's just put that piece of tape, masking tape over the check engine light so I don't have to see it. I think a lot of people truly know that there's something going on underlying, but they're scared to find out. They're scared to get under the hood.
Yeah.
Because they know at the end of the day that they've probably either A, not really been taking care of their bodies, or B, they could be somebody like me who I was the healthiest person you'd ever know, right? Always trained 5 days a week. Since I'm about to be 47. I've been in a gym since I was 16 years old, training 5 days a week. I'd never miss a workout. I eat clean, I drink my water, all the things. So why would somebody like me go into menopause at the age of 41? Why would somebody like me struggle to get pregnant? Why, but it's like sometimes you're almost scared to look under the hood because you don't even want to go down that rabbit trail of what it could really be. But I did because I was sick and tired of doing all things right and my body still being on the struggle bus.
Yeah. Holy cow. Now, what would you say the right symptoms are or the side effects you have for women having their menstrual cycle? What is normal or what would be perceived to be normal?
Yeah. You shouldn't be having debilitating cramps. And when you're having debilitating cramps, there's a couple reasons that can go on. But when you're having your menstrual cycle, blood fluid has to flow, right? Okay. And if there are spaces in the body that it needs to flow through and your body has sludge and clots because maybe you're low in potassium, minerals play a big role in this, right? Or you've got inflammation going on and it can't pass through those little tunnels, that's when you're like, oh, that's a cramp, right? Something's stuck. and you're feeling it. Okay. So, I mean, why do you think they say put heat on it, right? Because they're thinking, oh, right, try to ease that clot up or whatever that is. It's kind of sludge, it's kind of stuck in that area that's trying to travel throughout the body. Okay. And so, like, we shouldn't be feeling these debilitating cramps, but that's telling us that there's something clogged. The other side to that is estrogen and how a lot of women don't even understand throughout the month. They have these different phases in their cycle. And our hormones fluctuate. Estrogen rises and falls, progesterone rises and falls, like, throughout the month, depending on what phase you're in. The liver has to recycle estrogen and get rid of what it doesn't need and hold on to what it does. And that's what regulates that up and down flow of it. When the liver can't do that and estrogen gets built up in the liver because that specific phase of detox, there's a specific phase of the liver that detoxes estrogen, okay? And when it gets stuck and it can't do that phase because the liver's burdened, like we talk about the liver a lot because it's our little mother gatekeeper, right, for our body, then that buildup of that estrogen over time, you may have heard the term estrogen dominance. And estrogen dominance a lot of times is what's creating a lot of these menstrual cycle issues. And it's because the estrogen is not being circulated properly and detoxed properly by the liver. So that buildup, it's the body saying like, hey, I've got skyrocketed amounts of estrogen all month long, and I shouldn't have that. I should have up and down and, like it should be balanced. And a lot of people have no idea how their liver is impacting their menstrual cycles either.
That is so fascinating. Because I remember there was this one girl that I used to work at a CrossFit gym, and she passed out on me. And I was like, hey, what's going on? But she would come right back to it. I'm like, what is the deal? I thought she was dehydrated. Oh, no. I just been bleeding a lot. I just want to be transparent just in case I pass out again.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm having really bad menstrual cycle. And I was like, is that normal? She's like, oh yeah, that's just how it is. I'm like, I don't think you should be passing out.
No, but that's what happens. And the body has to release, that blood when it gets built up like that, and it'll get built up for different reasons. Right. And just those imbalances create an improper flow.
Yeah.
You got some women that overtrain and they don't have a period. They don't have a menstrual cycle. Yep. That's a whole another side of it. Swing the pendulum to the other side of the spectrum, right? So the other thing I would say is, those irregular menstrual cycles. Your body is trying to tell you something because God created rhythm in our bodies. Mm. I mean, how do you think people naturally prevented pregnancy back in the day? They knew their bodies because there is a cycle, and when you're fertile and when that window is. Well, when you're having irregular periods all the time, that's not normal because God created our bodies. I mean, he says it in his word for us to reproduce, right? So when we just kind of go, well, it's just normal now for women to have heavy bleeding, cramping, irregular cycles. That's not normal. But, we also think that giving our kids social media at 12 is normal and drinking Coke is normal, right? So, I don't want to be normal.
I'm so glad you said that, too. That really resonated with me when I was talking to you when we went over my blood work, which we'll put a link in the YouTube channel so you guys can get an in-depth review of what that looks like and her going by each level. But when I was talking to you about my food, I was like, yeah, it really wrecks me when I go out to eat now, because I eat so clean and healthy at home, and I go to the farmer's market, go to the chicory. I try to make sure I get all these organic food as much as possible and support local produce, which I'm just an advocate of in the first place. But even at really good restaurants, it destroys me because the amount of butter and sugar they put in their food, it just destroys my gut every time.
Yeah, and nobody's using olive oil and coconut oil and avocado oil, like the good clean kinds, when they're cooking your food at that restaurant either. So, I mean, those inflammatory oils, man, they just wreck our body. It's so hard to process. I mean, it literally goes into our body and our body looks at it like foreign invader toxin.
Yeah.
And I think that's the unfortunate part is so many of these restaurants and places, it's all about the dollar. And it's just way more expensive to use the good quality stuff, So in their mind, it's just not worth it. Even if they are trying to maybe have a healthier menu, it's still, like you said, what are they adding to those foods or cooking those foods in that now leave you feeling wrecked?
Yep. And what's interesting too, I'm not going to name what this restaurant was. It was one of my friends worked at a restaurant, but they washed their salad in sugar water. And I'm just like, no wonder why it tastes so good. It's like some of the stuff I didn't even know they did. That's why it tastes so well. I mean, have you heard stuff like that in restaurants?
Oh, yeah. I used to waitress back in the day, and I look back on it now, and it makes me want to throw up, honestly, the things I used to see in the kitchen. And I mean, that wasn't even when I was in the healthiest stages of life, right? So now I know there's no way. I love going to First Watch here in Oxford. It's probably one of my favorite restaurants.
Same.
And I do appreciate the fact that they, you know, really try to do things the right way. And I know that there's a couple of places here in Oxford that are really trying to do things the right way. And I appreciate that. And I hope that our community supports them. I know they may think, well, it's $5 more for X there than it is across the street, you know. But at the end of the day, what are we really paying for? Because you're going to pay for it later.
Yep.
Or you're just going to go ahead and invest in a little bit better food now.
Yep.
You know, so.
What really resonated with me when you said that was I remember I'm a huge advocate or like a fan of Dave Ramsey. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
Me too.
And so I love his stuff. So he always says that. It's like he's like, I'm not hating on you, but you can get a 30-year mortgage. You're going to pay for it by the end because how much principal and interest you're going to pay.
Right.
But I mean, interest you'll pay. But if you get a 15, it's going to cut your interest in half. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying either way you're going to pay. It just depends on how you want to do it.
Right.
And so it's like you could get the cheap food, in other words, but you're going to eventually pay the interest at the end.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, we talked about this too a little bit. You also struggled with getting pregnant, right? And you had fertility issues.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what did that look like? Because a lot of women struggle with that. And for some reason, it's like no one talks about it. It's taboo. It's almost like shaming in a sense. So speak a little bit on that.
Well, I'm going to get vulnerable here while we're talking. Hopefully you don't care about that.
I love vulnerability.
Okay, great. So when I was 17 years old, I actually got raped and got pregnant and then ended up having an abortion.
Okay.
So this is pretty deep for me, right? Having this conversation because spiritually and physically understanding like what an abortion actually did to the inside of my body, like, you know, from a reproductive standpoint, from a physiological standpoint, right? There's a whole deep dive we could even do there, but mentally, emotionally, there's a whole other component there to that. And, you know, as I got older and then finally started, I would say like just being real and being open and sharing, it was a big dark secret in my life for a long time. And I remember when we had our first miscarriage, I looked at Joel in the ER when this went down. It was a really scary thing. I almost like bled out in the ER. I mean, it was really scary. And this was our first pregnancy. And I remember looking at him and I was like, God is punishing me for what I did when I was 17. And he was like, babe, no. Like, Joel just continued trying to reassure me. Well, at that moment, I was 32 because I didn't have my daughter till I was 33. Joel and I were just really ingrained in our careers as college coaches. And I just felt like that it would slow me down to have a kid, right? And so, I mean, I was older, right? Like, I mean, I was in my early 30s and at that point still struggling with a lot of issues with my cycle, right? And I'd still been really sick and I'd already had one sinus surgery and I was just sick and on antibiotics all the time, okay? So I think you have to understand there's a whole backstory to even getting to where I battled infertility and there's a lot of raw emotions there, but then like I said too, there's physiological pieces to that, knowing what the trauma my body had been through. And so as we tried to get pregnant again, I mean, we got pregnant like right away. I'm trying to remember. I had the miscarriage, and they said like 3 months later, your body should be healed up enough to go in and try to get pregnant. And we did. And we had our daughter, our little rainbow baby, and it was awesome. I was 33 at this point in time. Well, after that, we knew we wanted to have more kids. But I had a really rough pregnancy with her and I swelled and retained a lot of fluid. I was really miserable. Like it was just a hard pregnancy, right? It was a hard birth. And so I was kind of like, oh, all these women that are like, pregnancy is just such a beautiful thing. Like I was like, no, it's not. We knew we wanted to try again. I was 35 years old at this point. You know, Harley was 2. So of course, every doctor just blamed it on the fact that like, well, you're 35, you know? So like, you're probably not that fertile anymore. And that's just kind of what you get, right? That's kind of the response you get. Again, nobody ran blood work on me back then to check anything. I mean, I look back on that and it blows my mind how many times I went in to be like, I can't get pregnant. Nobody ever tried to check anything. They never checked my hormone levels. Like, they never checked anything. They just kind of said the same thing. Well, you're old. So for the next 5, let's see, that was 35 to 40. I mean, you know, every month you're just praying and hoping.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely, my menstrual cycle started changing, and it was all over the place. So I couldn't even figure out, like, when I was fertile at that, like, when was my window, right, that I was ovulating. And I remember going to see a doctor in Arizona, and she wanted to put me on birth control to regulate my cycle to try to help me get pregnant. And I was like, yeah, I'm out. I'm going to find a new OBGYN, right? And so I look back on that now that I do a lot of testing and I'm able to see things. And the thing you have to understand about toxicity in the body, and so I was very toxic, right? Like, from the mold and other things built up in my body because of that my toxic bucket was just overflowing. And I mean, your hormones are drastically impacted by that. Your toxicity levels will drive everything down, and it'll just dominate the body. I just didn't know that that's what was going on.
Yeah.
But it was around that time that I really started searching. Whenever I couldn't get pregnant, I was like, this is not normal. And that's really when I took off on this path of holistic medicine.
Wow. That's incredible too. And there was a story that I was working with this client for multiple years. And then all of a sudden she was like, I just got to tell you something. I've never told anybody this before. And she was like, I know you're a believer, and I feel like you won't judge me over this. It's like, okay, what is it? Well, she had an abortion.
Yeah.
And the amount of shame that she felt over that, I was like, I've never experienced that, and nor will I ever, because I obviously can't. But I was just, the amount of despair that she felt was just, I can't even do words to it.
Yeah.
Like, she was just so emotional. Would barely even look at me. And this is a girl who is confident, like, entrepreneur, like you would never know. And I just had to remind her who she was in Christ. It's just like, that's the point of Jesus coming. You're going to make mistakes, even if it's that you feel that it's that big of a mistake. Like, that's the point of why he came.
And God will use it. He'll use it. You know, I had an opportunity to speak at the Pregnancy Center of Oxford's fundraising banquet just a few months ago. I had the opportunity to speak at the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. They do a big event for just like the coaches' wives at Ole Miss and just a big women's event. And it never fails that when I speak and share my testimony in a room full of 300 to 500 people, that there are 1 in 3 women in that room. That's what statistics show, that have been impacted by abortion.
Wow.
And I mean, I would say 90% of those women, it's still a secret. I feel like the church, I hate to say this, but I feel like the church has failed us a little bit in that, because there's pornography recovery, there's addiction to alcohol recovery. You know, we talk about a lot of these different things, but like, where is the abortion recovery? Where is the group for the woman that wants to get involved because she is trying to overcome this shame and unforgiveness, right? And there's not one. I was really fortunate. Joel was coaching at New Mexico State, and we were living down in Las Cruces for a little bit. The church we were at actually had an abortion recovery Bible study for women, and that was really when I finally got the healing that I really needed. And sitting in with a room, I mean, I will tell, there were women in that room that were 70 years old that had never even told their husband.
Wow.
That's the kind of weight of that shame that people carry with that. And, you know, people want to get into pro-life and pro-choice and laws and, you know, like politics and all this. And I'm like, I'm going to tell you, if people really want to see our culture reshaped in the way that we look at abortion, it's going to take women that have had an abortion to stand up and tell their story. And their story of redemption and hope, but also their story of how that almost destroyed their life and how the enemy tried to destroy their life with it. God used it for good, but the enemy tried to because those stories are the ones that are really going to help people see what truly happens behind closed doors in those clinics. Nobody's talking about that. So I just got to the point that I knew that God wanted to use my story, and I just unashamedly talk about it a lot. I love talking about it.
Yeah.
Because whether you've had an abortion or not, there's still something in everybody's life that we feel shame about. And shame is not from God.
Mm-mm.
And, that's one thing I love about what I do as a practitioner now, because I get to have those raw emotional conversations with my clients. And if I ever see the opportunity to be able to share my story, most of my clients don't usually come in and fill out their intake form and tell me they've had an abortion. But no matter what they're dealing with, I feel like I can relate with them on a level where they know that I have been through hell and back, and then I can hold their hand through what they're going through. And like, I had a situation on Monday. I was on a client call with a current client I have right now. And I just felt God telling me, Andrea, you need to pray over her. You don't need to tell her, I'm going to pray for you. You need to pray over her while you're on this phone call. And those phone calls are really supposed to be used for my clients to be able to, we ask questions, we talk about their symptoms, how they're doing and their protocols and stuff. And I could just tell something was heavy in that conversation, so kind of getting back to everything that like God has used that pain for a purpose. And what I do, it's ministry. I'm not just a holistic practitioner. I love the faith part of what I do. So I just stopped and I said, hey, we're going to pray right now. Do you care if I pray over you? And I get a lot of clients that aren't believers. My hope is by the time they finish working with me, they are.
Yeah. So. And it's remarkable. Like I have yet, and I've worked with a lot of believers, a lot of non-believers just through my 15 year of coaching now. It's just like, I have yet not one of them say that I can't pray for them.
Yep.
Regardless of where they lie on that thing. And they always thank me afterwards.
Yeah.
And so that's been really, I don't know if anybody else has experienced that, but has that been your experience too, or not necessarily?
I've never had anybody object to me praying over them. I think the hardest thing for me as a female is when I'm working with male clients. And sometimes it's kind of hard to like still get on that same emotional level.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I didn't work with male clients because I was just like, it's just hard for me to like really do what I do. And I'm a married woman, right? So like you're always making sure your boundaries are in check and stuff like that too, like emotionally and stuff, So it's just like, it's hard,
yeah.
right? You probably get that training females, right? It's hard. All that to be said, I think that's probably been my only holdup sometimes in my practice is to still get on that same kind of level when I'm working with a male versus a female.
Yep.
But in every conversation, even if it wasn't with a male, even if it wasn't me like praying over them or with them, they're still always very appreciative of how I just bring truth and bring my faith into every conversation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. How do you feel like your faith has impacted your practice in general of what you do?
Oh my gosh. It's not my wisdom. And it's all from God. And the moment that I ever try to start doing it within myself is when I feel very anxious as a practitioner trying to help somebody. And I kind of lose my confidence. Yeah. Because it's something I'm trying to muster up within like my own strength, just praying over my clients. Like I walk a lot. I love to be outside. We've talked about this, just being outside of fresh air. And I have at least one day a week when I'm on a walk. Like I'm specifically going through every one of my clients, just praying over them. I think that's really important, the prayer part. But even just prayerfully considering before I go into a consult with a new client, like that I've reviewed their blood work and I think that I know what's going on, is like truly asking God for wisdom. Because I tell people all the time, when I was a college coach, my career got started very young. I was a head college coach at like 23. I was young. And a lot of people would be like, oh, well, Andrea was really inexperienced. Like she was young. Something I feel like I've always prided myself on the fact is like hands-on experience over education. Because I just had so many opportunities as a young athlete to travel the world, travel international, do things that like gifted me in ways that like a school setting or an experience of years would have ever given me, right? And so kind of the same thing as a holistic practitioner. I could go back to school and get the letters DR in front of my name if I wanted to. I don't really care about that title. Because when I finished naturopathic school and I just knew I wanted to be board certified, I just wanted to start helping people. I say all that to say, I just feel like God's favor goes far beyond the hustle.
That's well said.
Like we can hustle our lives out and we can do all the training, we can go to school. And I'm not downplaying that. We all need to have a certain level of certification of we should not be helping people in whatever field we're in, right?
Right.
But then you get to a point where God sometimes he's just had favor on my business. I can't even explain it. I've never had to work for clients. Like I've never had to go out and try to use social media or promote myself. It 100% referral based, where people will come to me and say, I don't even know how I found you. Like I was like at a friend's house whose mailman stopped by and her daughter, whatever. Like it's like crazy stories like that. You can't even make it up. So I just have to go, that's God. And I just think when you take that approach to your business, it really relieves a lot of stress.
Yes. Because you don't take things so personally. Like there's so many factors for your business to be successful, and how much we actually don't have control over. It's not that much.
Yeah.
Like, one of our Ryan Dean, our pastor, he said this one time, and hopefully I don't misquote him, but he said, pray as you're dependent on God solely. Like, be in prayer. And then once prayer is done, act like you're the only one that's working.
Yep.
Like you got to have both. You got to work your tail off, but you also have to know that you're human, you have limitations, and that's just part of it. But that's really, it's really impactful, because I'm starting to see that through the business that I have here too, is me and Ben wrote down like a fixed rest period for next year. Like, what does a Sabbath look like? Are we taking one? Do we have a couple weeks off a year? Do we take off holidays a day before, a day after? If we're traveling, do we take the day off after we get back? Because traveling's in itself is exhausting at times. And so how do you find your rest with your work? Because it seems like you're always busy, And so what type of boundaries do you put up? And can you give us like practical ones?
Absolutely. So I read this book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry back in, I think 2019 or 2020 when that book came out. And our church back in Arizona actually did a whole sermon series on it. It was super cool. And I was like, what is a Sabbath? Okay, so my dad is a business owner, and I think because I've just never seen him Sabbath, he's a mechanic. He's always worked for himself. He's been very successful, but he works 7 days a week. And I think I just thought that that's what it took to be successful. So I love what my dad passed down to me. Like he passed down like the most amazing qualities ever. I mean, I am a hard worker. I don't cut corners. Like I pay attention to detail. I want to do things right. I love that he passed that down on me, but I think he also passed down a workaholic, type of work ethic that was good, but kind of became toxic for me. So I left college coaching, and, up to that point, there is not a day off. You take like maybe a week off at Christmas and maybe a week in the summer for a vacation, right? But I mean, college coaches they freaking grind. I mean, my husband does. I wish he Sabbathed a little bit better, but he's learning to. And that book just really wrecked my heart because it showed me that what I was doing was actually disobedient and disrespectful. And that I was basically saying, you know what, God, I can take these 7 days and do more with them than you could do with one of those days, and I could have 6, right? Like, I don't need to do that because when I first started Sabbathing, I think it was in like 2019, up to that point, I'd always worked 7 days a week. I was on social media 7 days a week. I would answer client calls 7 days a week. I would be open to emails, messages, whatever, 7 days a week. I would even do Zooms on Sundays. Like, I just thought that's what you did, and that your business sign always said open because I worked virtual. So it's kind of hard to shut it off sometimes, right? Well, after reading that book, I remember the first week I said, I'm going to Sabbath, no social media, like not going to talk to anybody. Like I'm just going to kind of turn my phone on silent. I almost had an anxiety attack, and I've never had an anxiety attack. And I was like, well, dang, that was a good indication that this needed to be done probably a decade ago. But that's really where it started. I think I just had to start small. And I said, no social media, 1 day a week. I'm a Sabbath from social media. Then I started really Sabbathing from all work stuff because I still kind of like try to rationalize in my head why I needed to be available on Sunday. It was just so dumb.
I
I want to tell you what's crazy, because this is not about money, but this is, and my best friend and I talk about this all the time, because I reached out to her. I said, I need accountability. I need you to check in with me and make sure that I'm really Sabbathing on Sunday. That next year, my business almost doubled. And since then, every year the lady, my CPA that does my taxes, she's like, good gosh, Andrea. And it's not like I'm over here like rolling in the dough. It's not even about that. But every year I work less and less, and my business has grown. The amount of time I've taken off, my business has grown that much more. So now Sabbath, what it looks like for me is last week, I took an entire week off to be with family that was in town. And my clients know ahead of time. I'm not available for phone calls, Zooms, or anything. If you have an emergency, you can text my work number, right, and I'll get back to you. But setting those boundaries has quadrupled my business. And it's crazy how that works when we just trust God with what he's already told us to be obedient with. So I love it. I love my Sundays. I love a day of rest. I learned, how to really rest. And that actually helps me be better at what I do.
Now, do you like kind of look forward to your Sabbaths now? Or are you still at the point now where it's still kind of hard and you're still kind of fine tuning it?
I think what gets hard about it is I know like Monday's going to be crazy. So sometimes I have a hard time resting because I know what I'm about to step into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have to catch myself with that and just like not go there and just deal with my day when it gets there.
Yep.
Kind of like taking a week off and knowing that this week I was going to be slammed with appointments all week because people couldn't get me for a week. But not allowing that to rob me from the presence of Sabbathing when I'm Sabbathing and when I'm resting. You know what I mean? So that's always a vicious cycle.
Same here. I struggle with that too. And it's like, I always remind the scriptures, like, let worries worry about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, be present for today. God's got you.
Yeah.
And I loved how you put it is by not taking a Sabbath, because Sabbath was built for man, not for God. It was for us. You're actually being not obedient and disrespectful.
Yeah.
And it's so true, because I just was writing a little paper on it for school. And that was the big theme that I got from it too. I was just like, oh, I don't trust. And I had to start 15 minutes on Sunday, because I had the same thing. Like when you told me about the anxiety, I was like, I did the same thing. I was like, yep, this is definitely a problem.
I know, right? When it's that bad.
But I had to start 15 minutes on a Sunday because that's how much I worked.
Yeah.
My dad's very similar to yours. He worked his tail off. I rarely ever, I remember one day he worked 40 something days in a row. It was just something crazy, like overtime. And I'm just like, so I just thought that was normal.
Yep.
But
that's what it takes to provide.
Do you feel that emotions, so somebody who's constantly anxiety run or depressed, do you think that in itself, emotions can also dictate your blood work?
Absolutely. I just had, so I also do stool tests and urine tests, hair tests. I do other things outside of blood work. It just kind of depends on what's going on. But I did a stool test for a client of mine that's had ulcerative colitis, and she has pretty much been in fight or flight most of her life because her parents died when she was young. And it's crazy how many gut markers you can see in a stool test that will show you stress in the body.
Huh.
It's crazy because it affects our gut microbiome like no other. That gut-brain connection.
So it's a real deal thing.
Well, think about it. Think about people that stay really anxious and really stressed, and how most of those people have gut issues and digestive issues. But nobody's correlating the fact, they think their gut issues are what are making them go crazy, right? But really them being crazy is what's affecting their gut. It's just this vicious cycle. So absolutely, because I will tell you, when your body does not feel safe, the whole rest and digest, right? Your body won't digest food well. And when your body does not feel safe, because it's constantly in this fight or flight state of fear or nervousness or anxiety or whatever kind of stress it is. And I think stress is one of those words, we can flippantly throw it around. Stress is inevitable. Stress, like inflammation, is not a bad thing. It's a bad thing when it becomes chronic. We can't change the fact that we have like external stressors that hit us. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that God knew when he created our bodies that we were going to be dealing with different kinds of stress, right? So stress is not necessarily an evil within itself. I think it's like when it magnifies and it stays around for a long time, just like inflammation, that's when it can become an issue. And so I also think that that is something that people can kind of throw around that term, oh, I'm stressed out. And it's kind of like, well, that's like feeling stress is not. My husband and I talk about this with athletes. I mean, athletes deal with stress all the time. They're like, that's inevitable. But how are you managing it? Well, I'll tell you what, if you're not taking good care of your body is not going to manage stress well.
Mm-mm.
And so that stress is going to have a compound effect, and there's going to be an aftermath of that if you're not dealing with it. I think those suppressed emotions, the past trauma, whatever it is, it's not being dealt with, that's still creating stress in your life today because you don't want to take time to deal with it and dig that junk up and fix it, then you have to know that that's going to affect your health.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that because just with coaching experience, giving them the best workout program that I think is good for based on their context and situation, their nutrition, and then all of a sudden they're still just all jacked up. And that's why now it's like I'm pursuing to get a biblical counseling degree because I'm just like, I'm missing the emotion. Like they're just jammed up with like conversation.
Yeah. You can't move the needle.
Mm-mm.
It literally becomes a shield in the body.
Yep.
You know, from being able to penetrate to heal. And those emotions, that's why I ask people on their intake form, like, I want to know about your emotions. I want to know where you're at right now with your stress, whether that's work, family, job, finances, whatever, because I need to know all those pieces going into a protocol, mainly because there may be homeopathics that I could also recommend in your protocol that are going to help with some of those stressors. As you're also, like, there's no quick fix. But as you're also working through those, like if I've referred a client out to counseling or therapy or something like that, but while they're working on that, I may put them on a homeopathic that's helping, whether it's stress, anxiety, depression, this perfectionist attitude that we can take on sometimes that will kind of create these anxieties, the perfectionism. That's a big one. I get that with a lot of women I work with, even men too, that are like really awesome professionals in whatever they do for work. And I'll have conversation and they'll be like, yeah, actually, now that I think back to when I was a kid, I was dealing with that kind of anxiety over being perfect or good at my sport or whatever it was, or getting good grades. Mm-hmm. And they'll connect that to say, gosh, I'm in my 60s. I think this has been going on since I was like 8.
It's crazy when you start to hit like light bulb moments like that with your clients.
Yeah, because nobody ever stops to connect the dots because they don't think that it matters. In what they're dealing with today, they're like, there's no way that's connected to something that happened to me as a child.
Yeah.
1,000% it is.
Yes. No, 100%. And that's one thing I enjoyed talking to you so far. Like even with the blood work stuff, you're always looking at each system within its own systems to see how it affects each other. Why is that so important not to look at just to blame? Like, hey, I'm just only going to blame the gallbladder or only the liver or only why is that? Because I feel like that's what medication does. Like, well, you got a sore throat. Oh, it's the throat's fault.
I mean, that's what holistic health is. It's the whole body and it's understanding that everything is intertwined and connected, from your emotions to sicknesses as a child, to medications you were on, to things you're exposed to on a daily basis, the air you breathe, the water you drink. I mean, it's all connected. I mean, if you truly pull the skin off the body and you look at it, everything is connected. So why would you not address the body as a whole? Yep. When you start nitpicking at just symptoms, okay, you will chase them for the rest of your life because you're just chasing a symptom.
Yep.
And so when you follow the trails and the trends and the patterns, I like to say the body is not like a puzzle where you just have a piece and you can get it plugged in. No, everything is connected and every piece matters, right? And so that's the thing with the body where I feel like people really miss the mark, and why they never truly 100% get well. They may feel better in certain areas, but they never really make that full 360, is because even with supplements, they're just chasing a symptom, right? They're just chasing the fact that they're constipated.
Yep.
Well, I mean, look, just because you start pooping doesn't mean you fix the problem. So you can go out and take laxatives, or you can go take whatever you want to take, magnesium, try to start pooping, but why were you constipated? You know, and so I think that's the thing if people really undressed the body and looked beneath the surface and understood how everything is intertwined, they would know it's never just the endocrine system. It's never just the urinary tract. It's never just the respiratory system. Like there are other things because everything flows, and you get one pipe in your place right here clogged, right? And you got a toilet back there that you never deal with, and you just let it stay clogged forever. It's going to eventually impact other areas of this building, the plumbing of other areas of this building, right?
Yep.
And so that's where people have to understand. Right now, it may just seem like it's your digestive health, but it is impacting other areas of your body.
Mm-hmm.
This is a crazy thing. I see kids, a lot of times parents will bring me their kids who are constipated. I mean, it's like a common thing. And they'll go in and get a chest x-ray for pneumonia, and they'll find fecal particle up in the chest x-ray and gas and stuff they weren't even looking for that. They were looking at a chest x-ray because they thought they had bronchitis or pneumonia. And then it's like an accidental finding, right? Because everything plays off each other in the body. And if you don't think that like being constipated and that backing up in the system and that fecal matter getting in your lungs is not impacting your respiratory health, then you're crazy. Just like you and I talked about your kidneys, your kidneys have a pump, so they reflux, right? That in and out, which helps get the fluid out of the body through the urinary tract. When that is not flowing properly and it's not leaving the body and it refluxes back in, I mean, that's bacteria, that's junk, that's waste that is being refluxed back now into the body. So you may think it's your kidneys, but it will eventually impact other areas because what did we talk about? Lymphatic system doesn't have its own pump. It's just, and so all that nasty, murky stuff just gets continually clogged. Well, that covers the whole body, you know?
Yeah. Now, what's been your like most, I guess, biggest transformation with the client that you've seen that you're just like, this is unreal? Because the amount of work they put in, they were bought in, and then also just from all the work you've done.
Yeah, I have a client right now that had ulcerative colitis, and I don't like to slap labels on stuff when it comes to diagnosis. Like people come to me and they've already been diagnosed by a medical professional, right? I'm not saying ulcerative colitis isn't a real thing, but I actually have a lot of clients that have been diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and I really don't think that that's what was going on. She was on infusions that were crazy expensive, and she was on them for a long time because, I mean, this girl, she could not even go on a hike or a walk without literally almost like going to the bathroom on herself. Like it was awful. And then if you know anything about ulcerative colitis, I mean, it just robs you of your health because you have constant diarrhea, you have blood coming out in your stool. I mean, your body is being depleted on a constant, and it's hard to like keep up. So people just like waste away, right? Like, I mean, I had an aunt pass away with ulcerative colitis. Like
Wow.
It is just how it wrecks your body with the fluid loss and the blood loss and mineral loss and stuff like that. And long story short, you know, your colon is kind of failing you over time, right? And this girl, we did a stool test on her. We'd done multiple rounds of blood work, but like I needed a stool test. I needed to see how the medication had suppressed her body so that I knew how to build it back up. And she was able to come off those infusions, which those infusions were costing her, because the insurance didn't cover it, thousands of dollars every time she had to go in.
Holy cow.
So not only did it save her financially, but, you know, she works out. She has a normal life now. I mean, she doesn't have to wear a diaper, you know. I mean, and then this lady, we're talking like this whole started when she was in her late 30s. She's 40 now. I mean, so much life to live.
Yeah.
And she was like bedridden.
Man.
That's been super cool to watch. And it's also been cool for me to see. I mean, she's in the gym. Like, she could probably get up on stage and do a show. I mean, she takes such good care of her body, right?
Wow.
You know, like she looks great. She's very fit. So being able to see her do that has been a great transformation.
That is incredible. Yeah, I've heard people passing away from that.
Yeah. It's scary what can happen in a hospital setting when somebody especially is older, like an elderly person that's dealing with that, because they just keep pumping the body full of antibiotics and different medications, and it just wipes the body away. It's really sad.
Yeah.
There's honestly a lot of malpractice that goes on with that in elderly, like in nursing homes and stuff like that, that I just look back and it makes me really sad.
That is.
That people just didn't know better. I've had a few clients who their elderly parents were really sick and they've came to me and been like, hey, this is what's going on. What do you suggest? And it's been so awesome to be able to educate them to say like, no, we're not doing that medication or we're not doing that procedure, because understanding that that wasn't really going to fix the problem. So I love, because it's, the elderly population, like that generation, it becomes very sad to me because most of those people aren't educated and then they're not in their right mind by the time these decisions are being made.
Yep.
And decisions are being made with people that just aren't educated. I'm not talking about doctors. I'm talking the family's not educated, right?
Right.
And I always tell my husband, like, I know that if I got cancer tomorrow, what I would want my treatment to be. Like, I'm not going to wait till I get cancer and figure that out. And I'm not saying I'm going to get cancer. Like, I'm not also... Like people be like, don't speak that. I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like Dave Ramsey, you better have a dang plan.
That's right.
Otherwise you're going to be reacting.
Mm-hmm.
And when you react and you're emotional and not in a good mental state because you just got a life-threatening diagnosis at a doctor's office, you're going to struggle to mentally put a plan of action together.
Right.
You should be doing that now with your family. You should be researching this stuff now. Don't wait until your kid needs to get their tonsils out. Like, why do we wait? Why don't we educate ahead of time so that we feel confident in the decision that we want to make and we don't get pushed around by a doctor that has an agenda?
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to say that because there are good ones out there that God has gifted with knowledge. The system is just broken.
That's right. No, I'm with you on that. And there's a guy that, I'm really close with. He's a believer too, but me and him just view the body very differently. But he has he's a doctor. So people are going to believe him more. I'm just like, have you asked them about their nutrition? Have you asked them about their sleep? How are their stress levels? Because this is a reoccurring theme and pattern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you keep giving the same medicine and they keep doing the same thing. It's like, as an entrepreneur, I can't do that. Mm-hmm. Like for like the medical field, like it's just, this, there's already contracts already set in place for the year for the insurance companies. Mm-hmm. So they have to meet a quota. Mm-hmm. And like for us, it's like, we don't have a quota meet. If we don't perform, we don't get paid. Yep. I love that.
I know. And I hate to go off on like the vaccine tangent, but in that regard, when we moved here, apparently the state of Mississippi had just kind of changed some of their laws where you could get a religious exemption. And prior to that, you couldn't.
Really?
Go to public school here in Oxford if you weren't like vaccinated and done like the full schedule, right, that they require. And when we lived in Arizona, their laws are very different. They're way more relaxed, I would say, in allowing parents to choose what's best for their family and their child, okay? So it's not difficult at all. You don't even have to have a religious exemption. You just tell the school nurse, this is what we choose for our family, and it's respected, and you're allowed to choose. So when we moved here, I could not believe the amount of hoops I had to jump through to get my kid in school. I was blown away. And I remember them taking me back. I had to go to the health department. And if there's anybody listening and you're ever curious about what you need to do as far as your rights when it comes to this, they can definitely reach out to me because I've got a lot of great information, just factual information state to state so people know what they can do. We had to go to the health department and watch this video about how the state of Mississippi prides themselves on, I believe it's 96% of their school-age children are 100% vaccinated, and they pride themselves on that, right? And you have to watch this video. They're basically saying, like, if your child gets sick, it's your fault if they spread it and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's fine. Like, we'll do what we have to do. I'm not trying to bypass any laws that are in place. Like, you just tell me what I need to do and what my rights are, and I just want to know. And we walked out of that, and it was crazy because I thought to myself, isn't the state of Mississippi, like, ranked in the top 5 of the most unhealthiest states in America? And again, I'm not saying this to be negative about the state of Mississippi. This is my home. I just want to see change. But I could not believe that even just a year prior to us moving here, I would have probably had to homeschool my daughter. And that really made me sad. There's a lot more information coming out now. And at the end of the day, people can choose. Do what you feel you need to do. But same as you were just saying, is the system is broken. And a lot of parents that I talk with, they go into doctor's offices and they don't prepare themselves. And they've got 10 minutes. They've got 10 minutes with that doctor to try to get all the answers, and that's even if they see the doctor and it's not a nurse practitioner. And I'm not knocking nurse practitioners either. I'm just saying the insurance and the way the whole system works, right? And who you get to see that day. People, they walk away and they're just like, I don't even know what we just talked. Like, they don't even know what was discussed.
Mm-mm.
So I try to empower my clients, whether it's them or their child or their aging parent. Have notes in your phone or on a piece of paper before you go into that doctor's appointment. Know the questions you want to ask and do some research ahead of time so that you can get the answers that you need. And then you make sure that you tell them, like we said earlier, I'm not ready to make a decision right now on my treatment. I want to go home and think about this.
That's right.
And I want to pray about this. And then that's the problem. People feel so pressured and rushed. And, and I still haven't even been able to establish a doctor. We don't really go to the doctor because I can handle most things.
Yeah.
But if we needed something, right? My daughter had a really rare tumor that we had to go through that battle back in Arizona. And if I ever wanted an ultrasound or something and insurance to cover it, like I would need a doctor to order that. I could not find a doctor in town that would take her as a new patient because she wasn't fully vaccinated as a 13-year-old female.
Wow. That is crazy.
Yeah. But that's truth. And people need to be talking about these things.
Yes.
Because it's not okay.
Mm-mm.
We have insurance and we have a right to be able to be seen by a doctor if we need to.
Yep.
And it shouldn't matter because I will tell you that I see what these kids in this town eat and how they live. And again, I'm not knocking parents for that, but I will tell you that my kid takes better care of herself than probably 99% of people in this town.
Yep.
But yet you're going to isolate her, and then the school's going to tell me, hey, if we have an outbreak, your kid's not going to be able to come to school.
Yeah, just yeah. I mean, I would hate to even go down this rabbit hole, but it's even like the Lane Kiffin situation's going on now. It's just like, yeah, what he did, you probably not agree with it, but also he's in a system that's currently broken right now. So it's like we also have to address that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of goes the same thing. It's like just because they're a doctor doesn't mean they're not in a broken system,
right?
And they're operating out of very stressful quotas that they need to meet.
Right.
And that's just truth. Yeah. I mean, the same thing for me as a business owner. I have bills to pay, and sometimes I make irrational decisions to take on people I shouldn't take on. And that's just truth. Like you make mistakes. But we can't keep going around the world and act like that doesn't exist.
Right. And again, I think it's where we have to take responsibility for what we can take responsibility for. Like we have to control those controllables, right? And so like as a parent, I'm going to educate myself. When my daughter was, where she was having issues and nobody was really running tests. And I was like, we haven't really gotten into this, but I know we were going to maybe touch on it.
Scoot the mic up a little bit.
Oh, okay.
You're good.
Is that good?
Yep.
That I knew something was not right. Parents will have that intuition. Something is not right with my kid. But then maybe they're not running the right tests because you're not asking the right questions. So you have to understand how insurance works. It needs to be medically necessary. When you know how to ask the right questions and present the right information so that a doctor understands the urgency and they can see it's medically necessary, they will run the tests. I mean, we've had to go through that with my daughter and this tumor that they ended up finding because I would not stop. I said, something is not right. And so I kept pushing the envelope. But I had educated myself in how to talk with the doctors so that they knew I wasn't just some crazy woman coming up in there. I was educated and I knew what my insurance would cover. And again, I think that that's where a lot of times we just don't do our due diligence. And so we want to just blame the system. But really, there are things that we can do to help ourselves.
Yeah. Now, what happened with your daughter? When was the tumor? When did you guys see it? Or what were the symptoms? What was going on during that time?
Well, so she had what felt like a swollen lymph node, that kind of how your lymph nodes get swollen back here. After she had gotten the flu, she'd gotten really sick. And this was, I hate to say it, but around like all the COVID stuff, right? And so we were like, man, her immune system just can't seem to kick this virus that she had kind of like gotten, and it kind of lingered around. So we thought that lymph node had just stayed swollen from where she had been sick. But then I kept checking it and I was like, that's not just a lymph node. Like that's like a hard nodule. There's something going on there. Well, I couldn't, again, because we didn't vaccinate. Arizona was way easier to get in with doctors and stuff, but still sometimes you're always getting questioned every time you go in there and they're wanting to see records and all this stuff. But I was able to get in at this particular doctor's office. He was kind of hybrid, like functional, but, took our insurance. So it was such a God thing. Like I just had to research and find somebody, right? And he did. He listened. And so I actually got in with him because she had hurt her shoulder playing softball, but that was just my in. And once I got into that appointment, I was able to say, hey, while you're looking at her shoulder, I really need you to check something out. And because of the way we handled things like he did, And so it was really about continuing to just find a doctor that would listen. And so that was a big piece to that. And he immediately said, we need to get this checked. So because I had said, I'd really love to get ultrasound on that. And I'd love to get some blood work done, And so we did. She's in 8th grade now. She was in 5th grade, I think, when all this happened.
Wow.
And it was really scary for her because, when you hear the word tumor, right, like you immediately think cancer. And we knew it was benign. We had to have a lot of testing done at Phoenix Children's to know that. But again, that was one thing I just kept pushing. I want the testing done because I believe in getting the information, which is why I'm the blood work analyst, because like if I can analyze something, if I have information in front of me, then I can make a decision versus just guessing what it could be. And a lot of people are just guessing what's going on because they don't have that clear data in front of them, right? And so I wanted as much data as we could get on what was going on so that we could make a decision and prayerfully consider what we wanted to do. So the surgery was really risky because the tumor was sitting on her facial nerve, the main branch of it. And to be removed, if it was like intertwined and connected in that nerve, it could have created paralysis.
Whoa.
So she was the 5th case in the world of a pediatric case of this particular mass.
Wow.
I know, it was crazy. So we had to meet with like Cleveland Clinic. Again, so we pursued all options. We got opinions from Cleveland Clinic, Mayo Clinic, Phoenix Children's, and we talked to everybody. The new doctors, the old doctors, like we wanted to hear everybody's thoughts on it. And there was literally a roundtable discussion about her particular case because it was so rare as to do we do surgery or do we wait? And so we felt in our heart to wait and just see if it continued to grow. And so we monitored it for a couple of years, and then it was April of 2024. Let's see, because Joel took the job here that summer. So we decided we were going to go ahead and move forward with surgery because the mass started to grow. And at that point, it's such a God thing. We had decided to put our house on the market because we were just Phoenix is crazy with traffic. And we were trying to get closer to like her school. The commute was like 45 minutes. So it was crazy. And we had the surgery and all this was going on. The surgery was scheduled for that summer. And then all of a sudden in May, Joel gets the phone call about the Ole Miss job. And so our house was already on the market. And then we were like, what are we going to do if he takes this job? Harley's got to have this surgery. And we weren't going to come have it in Mississippi. I mean, I'm sorry if anybody's listening that offends them, but we wanted like the best of the best to do the surgery.
Even people in Oxford say that.
Okay.
So
it's like God is like, I say all this, CJ, because like God is always working. That was such a hard season. A lot of tears shed as a parent watching your kid go through. She was like a test rat. I mean, she had to go under and do CAT scans and CT. I mean, it was crazy, right? And then all of a sudden, a surgery appointment opened up for us to get it done before we had to move. So that was like a huge thing because the particular doctor that did it, like he never had openings. Like you had to book like 6 months out. It was like crazy. Jeez. So it's just cool to look back and see. So I say that also to people listening, like, don't be afraid of a diagnosis. Like God is already ahead of that. He's already got the date there. He's already got the doctor there. The healing's there. And I think that like when you can really look at it that way, like whether you're going through it personally, that was my own child, or I'm watching one of my clients go through it or whatever it is, like it's just such a great reminder of what trust and blind faith like really will do.
Yeah.
So
now, did she recover? All that's good? No nerve damage, anything like that?
They went in there and they were able to pluck that thing right off the top of the nerve.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was back on a volleyball court playing competitive volleyball like 2 weeks later.
Holy cow.
Yeah. She was determined to get back out and play her last tournament before.
Now, did you see the size of it at all?
Yeah, we did. It was kind of like shaped like an almond, but like fatter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. That's crazy.
That is nuts. Now, when you were going through that, you also mentioned what I seen in this in another podcast. I think it was your dad who had Lyme disease.
Yeah.
Now, talk a little bit about that and how you view that through blood, and what are some steps people can take for Lyme disease, and not traditional, I guess.
Yeah. So, I mean, most people think of like getting bit by a tick and having like the bullseye rash, but people don't understand that Lyme can come through mosquito bites and other insect bites. And you may get bit by a tick and never even know it. Like, not everybody has a bullseye rash. My dad did, and he works outside in like brushy like areas and stuff a lot, with just like around his shop and things. So he does like a lot of demolition work outside of his mechanic work. So he's just kind of out in like those kind of areas are grown up and stuff. And there's just certain states that it seems to be more prevalent, but it's actually across the U.S. now. Like, people wouldn't even think. I mean, Lyme disease is nationwide, you know? So it used to kind of be more the Northeast, and people thought that's where Lyme disease kind of started, just because of the ticks and stuff. But yeah, so we knew my dad had Lyme disease. It's been about a decade ago whenever he got bit by the tick. Back then, I wasn't really specialized like I am now, where I really have the understanding with Lyme. So he had actually tried to get in with some other naturopathic doctors up in like Knoxville, Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, like some other like you kind of big cities is kind of really the only people that had these kind of doctors, right? These naturopathic doctors that specialize in Lyme. It's really expensive, like $20,000, $30,000 for treatment and stuff.
Wow.
They just couldn't do that. So as I was gaining ground with my expertise and I started learning to look at blood work, my dad's health, like the tick bite initially was probably more, I would say, like neurological stuff he noticed. Like, he wasn't as sharp with his thinking. My dad's a really sharp guy. He's very intelligent. And he just was kind of struggling mentally, brain fog and stuff. And then my grandmother died of Alzheimer's disease. And so they were trying to say that that's what my dad was dealing with, like early onset dementia. And I was like, that is not what my dad is dealing with. Like, I know my dad, you know. My dad works 7 days a week, really manual labor, 14-hour days. And like his energy was just like tanked. And there were signs that his body was finally starting to show these signs that the Lyme was really kind of setting in. The thing about Lyme is there's not just one species of Lyme. Okay, so you've got parasites that can come from that. You've got certain species of bacteria that can come from that tick bite. Like, there's multiple species, okay? So he had went to one doctor, but he only tested for like one species of the Lyme. He didn't do like a full panel. So they failed to know that my dad had a form of Lyme called Babesia. That's actually a parasite. They call it a blood-sucking parasite because it literally sucks your blood. And it affects your iron levels and your ferritin. So when you get blood work done, if they don't know you have this parasite, this Babesia parasite, they won't really know how to analyze your blood properly, because they'll get like a ferritin level that's 1,200 and they'll freak out, right?
Right.
So my dad goes to this functional guy that just didn't really understand. He sent my dad to go donate blood. He said, you need to leave right now. Your iron levels are too high. You've got to go donate blood right now. My dad almost died.
Oh.
He should have never been sent to go donate blood.
Yeah.
This doctor just didn't understand what was going on because they hadn't ran the right tests to know that this Babesia parasite was there.
Well, and too, logically, I'm thinking if he's already low of energy, like just rash, I'm not even a doctor. I don't know as much as you know. Like, I'm just trying to be like common sense smart. This guy has no energy. You're going to take more blood away from him. That's going to be worse, not better. Right? Is that logical thinking?
It's just, some people are just trained certain ways and they just don't ever think outside that box.
Huh.
So they just think that there's one way to do things, you know? And it was a really unfortunate time because, I mean, my mom called and she said, your dad wants to get his will together. Like, it was that bad. So at that point, I was still kind of, this was like 8 years ago or so. I'm trying to remember. I was still kind of learning some stuff, but I said, that's it. Like I have to get some help for him. So I went and found a mentor, going back to like, do you want to go get more schooling, or do you want to just get to work and find somebody that can help teach you? And so I wanted the mentorship versus more education for a title in front of my name. And I found this lady she's one of the best naturopaths like in the nation when it comes to Lyme disease. And she mentored me one-on-one. We met every month for almost 2 years, not just on Lyme, but on like everything. She taught me so much. I mean, this lady been practicing for like almost 30 years, I think.
Wow.
So she helped me help my dad. And that was very early on in my career as a holistic practitioner. But I was able to discover the Babesia parasite through her telling me what to test for. And in doing that, we were able to teach him how to eat to build his blood up, which was going to, building up your blood is going to provide the energy, the brain function, a lot of different things that he was suffering through. But, Lyme is also one of those things that you can relapse because it is just a nasty disease. And so you had to walk that journey with my dad. And anytime he has had a relapse, it's been because he's been working himself to death, not resting. My dad does take good care of himself. He eats really clean and, all that, but he will just grind so hard that his body will be so fatigued. And you can't do that because that's when people relapse, right? Into certain like health issues. So I use homeopathics a lot. I love homeopathy. And there's a specific homeopathic protocol that I'm able to just kind of get him on quickly. We keep him on stuff all the time that stabilizes a lot of different things. We keep him on like organs and beef liver, different things like that, right? But there's other things like high level vitamin C, just different things like that. That's kind of like a baseline staple all the time. And then if he has a little bit of a relapse, I can quickly get him on a homeopathic that's really strong that can just kind of help his immune system like catch back up and regulate what's going on with that bacteria and then get him back to functioning better.
Yeah. Now, how would you describe the difference between a homeopathic versus traditional medicine? So that way the audience can distinguish those two differences.
Yeah. I mean, even in functional medicine, you've got homeopathy and then you've got nutraceuticals. So even in functional medicine, not everybody's really going to use homeopathics, right? Because you have to really be trained and understand like how you're matching the energy of the body and you're using, truly things from the earth, right? That kind of mimic the same chemical structure and compound of whatever that virus or bacteria disease is that you're trying to fight, okay? So you're really trying to go into the body with homeopathy and you're trying to match that energy, help the immune system kind of wake up. So it recognizes what's in there and it regulates it like God created our body to do, right? Like natural way. Well, that takes time. Because you're trying to get in, basically retrain your system on the inside.
Yeah.
And versus like a pharmaceutical, you're going to take an Ambien and you're going to sleep that night, right? You're going to take a pain pill and you're going to feel pain relief within 30 minutes, okay? Because it's just going in and basically kind of putting that system to sleep. It's not actually strengthening it to work for itself later. And this is what happens when we're on, cholesterol meds or different things and we're just suppressing, right? Medication will really suppress. It'll suppress the immune system. It'll suppress the cholesterol. It'll suppress whatever it's suppressing. And you're just weak. It's like the muscle. You're just weakening it over time because you're not ever strength training and giving it protein, right? So that's kind of the difference in homeopathy. We're actually giving the body that protein. We're flexing that muscle, right?
Yeah.
To make it stronger so that in the end, we're actually fixing it at the root.
Yeah.
So that the body can overcome whatever it's trying to fight.
I don't know why, but this analogy popped in my head just for like my racing dirt bike. Like I put racing gas in it so the engine can wake up and perform and use its parts. I don't put it to sleep.
Right.
I
know. But when you really think about it, it's like we all have to go, wait, what? What are we doing?
As Dave Ramsey said, common sense is a spiritual gift.
I know, right? Oh my gosh. So funny. But it is so cool how, like, whether it was my dad or my daughter or myself, right? That like those people that you love the most, you were able to walk their healing journey with them. Like that is incredible. So I work with a lot of kids. Parents will be like, there's no way I'll ever get my kid to take a supplement or take a pill or take whatever. That's what I love about homeopathy. It's a lot of liquids. And it's so easy that you can literally just mix it in a little orange juice or your water or whatever, get it down and get it working in your body, right? And it is probably one of the easiest things from a protocol standpoint that I do because people are very compliant because they're not having to pop 50 pills every day. And there's certain things that you need a nutraceutical for in a pill form, like maybe digestion or just different things, right? That you just can't really get that in a liquid homeopathic. But for all the things that I can get in a liquid, I love it. And I like my daughter, she has a little shot that she does every morning. And she has stuff that helps with her digestion, her menstrual cycle. She has dealt with pain, whether that's been muscular or joint or sport related, whatever. And I can pretty much treat it all just in, boop, 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 little drops in there, shoot it down, out the door,
Yep.
So
That is so awesome. Yeah, I'm so glad you can differentiate those because I've always heard those terms. I just didn't know the difference, to be honest.
Yeah.
That makes complete sense.
Well, back in the day when we had like kings and queens and all the things, back in the ancient times, they had a homeopathic doctor. And again, like I said, these compounds, these ingredients they're using in homeopathy, they come from nature.
Yeah.
But what people don't understand is there are plants out there in nature that have the same chemical structure as like strep bacteria. And I like to say homeopathy is kind of like allergy shots. I don't like allergy shots. I don't really agree with them. And I even did them personally back when they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, like respiratory wise and all that stuff. But you're actually putting the allergen in your body, right? When you're doing allergy shots, you're not actually putting the bacteria in your body when you're doing homeopathy, but you are putting a compound from nature that mimics that bacteria so that your body wakes up to it. And then is like, oh, I can actually live in harmony with this virus. The goal with a virus, because you can't kill it, we talked about this earlier, that we want the body to live in harmony with it, which means the immune system, the strength of the immune system and the virus need to match. Or the immune system needs to be a little bit heavier to kind of put it in dormancy, right? When the virus is outweighing the immune system, that's when it's up and it's active, right? And it's replicating and it's doing damage on the body, right? And so people don't understand it's not always about just like killing things in the body. It's about helping the body live in harmony or building up enough good bacteria that it suppresses the bad, right? You see what I'm saying? It's about creating that balance. That's truly what healing is.
Yep.
Is creating that balance. So that's really kind of when you think about homeopathy, that's really kind of the difference in that.
Yeah, I like how you put that too because Rebecca Edwards, she was on the podcast too.
Oh, yeah.
And she was saying, like, when she comes to teeth, it's just like, basically these mouthwash or these toothpaste that are just loaded with all these chemicals. It's like you going in there, cleaning out the fish tank, and basically the good bacteria and the bad bacteria out. And it's just a clean slate. Mm-hmm. And then it restarts again. And you keep having the same problem over and over instead of just giving the water what it needs, like in a fish tank, to be able to support and live in harmony. Because you're going to have a little bit of mold, a little bit of this. It's like, but it's not necessarily bad. It's just like when it's chronic, is that right?
Yeah. When it's dominating. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When the bad is dominating or the virus is dominating, right? Like when it's the one kind of like calling the shots in the body, then that's when we have symptoms and that's when we're sick. So it's really just about taking back the driver's seat, right?
Yeah.
And then the body will regulate that. I think that's the problem is a lot of people don't even give their body a chance for their immune system to do its job.
I mean, me and you talked about this. It's like, it's really discouraging as a coach, as a person who studies blood and you can see like, if you just do this, you will feel better. It's just going to take a little bit of your time and your effort. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, they're so close. They almost walk up straight up to the line and they don't do it.
Yeah.
And it's so, but like we said before, but then you have these handful of clients who work a year and you just see this transformation take place. You're just like, that's why I do it.
Yeah. I usually, when my clients start with me, they have to start at 120 days. And I tell them we're typically, we're running a marathon for sure, but we're doing like little 5Ks throughout because I think when somebody thinks about a marathon, that's really intimidating. So I like to just compartmentalize that into like some little 5Ks, Mm-hmm. And so usually like 4-month increments is about a good game plan because we've talked about this, like our cells live 120 days in the body. And so we need that cellular turnover to really see like what kind of progress we're making, right? So I need that initial 120 days because I need to turn over these dead, dirty, damaged, toxic cells, infected cells, whatever, clean that out, have a clean slate. Yep. Then we're finally going to see what we're working with here. So really then the fun begins.
Yep.
Well, most people think in 4 months, they're just going to be healed from things they've been dealing with for 20 years, right? And that is not how it works.
Nope.
So when my clients start with me, I have this awesome devotional. And it's funny because it's 100 days, so give or take. And I have them, that's part of what they're starting with and that they're supposed to read. And it's a specific one about your mindset. It's devotional about mindset, keeping those toxic thoughts out and really staying focused on Christ. And I tell my clients, like, this is non-negotiable. You got to do this with this plan, because this is just a starting point. And I need your head in the right place to understand that we're just starting.
Yes.
You know? And I love being able to do that, because I do think from a mental standpoint, it creates a really good foundation. So then we get through that first 4 months and we're reassessing, and then we're seeing what we're going to do next, right? We're listening to body, kind of following what the patterns that we're seeing. And I just find that, like, when my clients actually buy in and do that, they're way more successful, committed in the long haul, because they've gotten their mind right those first 4 months.
Yeah, I like how you do that, because now it's got me thinking, like, how can I prep the mindset if, like, there's a specific goal? I'm like, well, this is going to take a while.
Yeah.
Because I think it's going to just come off like that.
I think when you just like, where I used to mess up, and this is a huge, on my part, this is a failure that I had to learn from. You know, we talk about, like, moving forward from failure. I failed at this early on because I was so scared that I would lose a client that wouldn't want to work with me when they knew how long it was really going to take to get better.
Yeah, I feel that.
So I didn't tell them.
Yep.
And so then expectations weren't met.
Yep.
And the valley of, you know, those expectations getting met, we talk about, I'm trying to remember what book. I think it's from, what is that? I'll have to think about it in a minute. But there's a book that I read, and it's The Valley of Disappointment. And he talks about, like, there's a curve, right, to, like, getting better at anything. And there's always this, like, little dip at the beginning. That's the valley of disappointment. It's like, if you can ever get past that, you're going to end up climbing that mountain.
Yep.
But that's where, you know, unmet expectations kind of happen in that valley of disappointment. And I think I had to realize that, you know what, actually that may help me filter out people that I'm really not supposed to be working with.
Yep.
That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Either it's not time for them, or really they're meant to go somewhere else and get help.
That's right.
But I need to be upfront with them. And I've started doing that. And it's scary at first when you tell somebody, it may take 18 months for you to really feel like yourself. But here's what I expect in 4 months. I expect these changes to start happening.
Yep.
Then I expect these changes to start happening, right? And I think when you lay it out like that and you're just honest and upfront with people, people have actually really appreciated that with me, you know?
I've been doing that lately too, this last year, because that's my mistake too. I can totally relate on a level like that with you. There was a client I worked with a couple years ago. They had to lose a significant amount of weight. And I was like, this is going to take a while. It's going to be hard because of your situation, because of the things you told me, because of the emotional capacity that you have. Mm-hmm. Like, it's going to be a little harder for you because we've suppressed emotions for a while. You've got some toxic relationships around you. It's going to be a little bit, because we have to put up boundaries, and it might get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
Like, and so I'm with you on that. I'm just like, you know what, just be upfront and honest. Because I was kind of worried, like, maybe they won't want to work with me if I say that, because it is kind of discouraging at times. But truth, like you said, just be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I would rather mentally go into something and just know what I'm dealing with than get to 4 months and be really frustrated and mad, that feeling like I've wasted money, I've wasted time, right? Like all the things. Because, I mean, again, I think that's where, like, referrals have always grown my business, because number one, people really get to connect on me with a level, and they get time from me that they normally don't get from other people. And they really appreciate that. Yep. They appreciate that friendship they develop with me and that trust. But I think the honesty, and sometimes just having to, like, have those tough conversations and talk somebody off the ledge and just say, this is how far we've come. And if you stop now, you're just delaying your destination.
Yep.
And that's on you.
Yep.
And that's fine. But you need to think about that. And don't make an emotional decision right now because you're upset because you're not where you want to be.
Yep.
You need to look at this for what it is. You need to understand what it takes for the body to heal, knowing that you've been dealing with this for 20 years.
Yep.
I can't change in 4 months what you've dealt with in 20 years, and you need to understand that.
Yep.
And if you don't want that and you want a quick fix, then you need to go see a medical doctor that's going to get you a pharmaceutical. And as much as I don't want people to do that, sometimes that's what they choose because they just can't wait.
Yep. Yeah. No, I can't totally. How would you address parents who are on the verge? They're kind of on the line. They're like, I don't know if I should do vaccines for my kids. I don't know if I should, should I? Which one should I do? Based off all the knowledge you have, how would you talk to them? Because they're trying to get truth.
Right. So I think that the vaccine schedule that was out, like, probably when I was a kid, and you got like a couple here, a couple there, and then it was over with, right? That, like, if you're even going to consider them, I think you need to go back in time when we did a much smaller and spread out vaccine schedule. Okay. So even if you are going to do them, I do not agree at all with the schedule now that they ask for. As far as specific vaccines and things like that, I mean, if people have questions, I'll be happy to share, like, out of those ones, like, if I was going to, which would be the few that I would think would be the safest, right? That has the most research and the less amount of side effects. But I also think for those out there that really want to say, I don't want to vaccinate at all, that there is so much literature to show that your child will be okay. And that there's a lot of proven literature there as well. And that is definitely a personal and a prayerful decision. That if you're a parent and you're married, that couple needs to be on the same page. Because I will also tell you, I don't believe that God is the author of division. I don't believe he's the author of confusion. And if things are being divided in a marriage and there's confusion and it's causing a reckless marriage and strife in the house over this, like that, God is also not the author of that. And so that's where I think that, like, you've got to be on the same page prayerfully as a couple and making those decisions. And, again, like, if you do want to vaccinate, I do think that for some people that do want to vaccinate, there are some that are safe, and that I don't want to use the word beneficial, but I just think, like, if you're just trying to follow some sort of an agenda and you want to do some, that there can be some that would be, like I said, less side effects.
Yeah, I like that.
But I also recommend that if people do vaccinations, that there are certain homeopathics that even as young as babies, that they can use in their little systems, right, to just kind of help protect against any reactions and stuff too.
Yeah.
That's something I see a lot. You think about a child being born and being put under a bilirubin light, and most parents don't even know why their child, they just know it's jaundice.
Yep.
They don't understand that their little baby just got born with a clogged liver and clogged bile ducts. And that should set the stage for how they handle that child as far as, like, their food and just their immune system and stuff as they get older. Most people just don't even understand what jaundice even is. And so, again, I think it's just, if you're pregnant right now, don't wait until you've had the baby to make these decisions, because you're going to be really emotional.
Yeah.
And we don't want to make emotional decisions or irrational decisions because we feel stressed and pressured.
Yep.
We want to make prayerful, wise decisions because God tells us to act that way.
Mm-hmm.
So.
No, I like that. Now, what'd you say the babies usually get? What was that word you
Jaundice.
used? Okay, what is that? I've heard that multiple times. Obviously, I've never had a nephew who's had it. What is it?
So when a baby is born and they literally, their skin tone is kind of like a yellowish greenish color, right? Like they come out. I mean, actually already, like, their body's almost like a little discolored. And I don't know if you've ever seen people that they almost, like, under their eyes kind of even look like a little yellowish, like it's not just like dark under their eyes, but if you find people that are sick, especially like liver stuff, right? And they're like really sick. Some people have cancer and stuff like that, depending on what type of cancer, they can almost get like that yellowing kind of down here, even the whites of their eyes. And so your body, like, bilirubin is something that we check in the blood. Okay. And so when those levels are off at birth, then we're already starting our life with a drainage pathway clogged. And so just being able to understand, like, how the body filters itself. I mean, listen, we had to study umbilical cords when I was in naturopathic school. Babies are born with over 250 viruses, bacteria, toxins, heavy metals that they're exposed to in the womb. Like, let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
Bless their hearts this day and age. They're coming into the world already toxic, right?
Yeah.
Thank God that they have strong immune systems at birth, right? That is one of the questions with the vaccines and how they can impact that immune system, right? And why there's a lot of questions around that, and why kids are then developing autoimmune and skin conditions. And, why does a baby have eczema? And within 3 months of life, like, why does it have an ear infection within 2 months of life? Like, we shouldn't be getting sick within being on this earth for 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
But I think parents really don't understand, like when their baby is born, what all has already been exposed in the womb.
Yeah.
So,
And how you take care of yourself does impact your baby.
yeah, absolutely.
It does. Now, do you work with like cancer patients or recovering, or I guess you would call it post recovery?
I do. I actually have a gentleman I'm consulting with next week that really just wants me to look over all of his stuff, that he's been diagnosed with cancer. He wants a second opinion to just get my thoughts on what they're seeing. Not to say that I would rule out cancer. If he's been diagnosed with it, then like he's going to have to decide his treatment plan. That's kind of the big thing. So I will get people that have been diagnosed. They'll come to me and just want to hear more from my perspective, and then want to also hear about their options for treatment. And I share with them, I mean, about the clinics that I would personally go to if I wanted to do it, whether it's juicing or certain supplements or different things that I would recommend. And I'll typically share kind of like a protocol regimen if they are going to pursue like chemotherapy and radiation, but they want to kind of keep their body strong alongside that. Like I'll definitely share options that are safe that they could do while going through that. And then I also have people on the back end.
Yeah.
That they'll come to me and they'll be like, okay, this is what I went through, and I'm on the other side of it now. And I really want to know like what I can do to feel better.
Yeah.
Take care of my body, try to prevent this from coming back. And I definitely just share, but it like to me, what we know now about cancer, like and cellular health and the connection with that, right? Like, it's like, just have good cellular health. Lower the toxicity that you're exposing yourself to every day, right? Like lower that toxic bucket in your body, eat clean, exercise, drink clean water, right? Like breathe clean air, like all the things that we should be doing. I don't say that flippantly,
Right.
But I mean, at the end of the day, if I go to heaven and cancer is what takes me, then cancer is what takes me. I'm not going to sit here and live in fear over that.
Right.
I'm going to have a plan of action, but I'm just going to take care of the body and steward what God's given me, because that's what I can control.
Yep.
I can't control a lot of these other things. I know people that are the healthiest people I've ever met that get cancer or die of a heart attack or something crazy. And I think that a lot of people really get locked up in fear about a lot of this stuff, and they almost lose their mind, like trying to be so holistic, right? That they don't even live.
Yeah.
And I just think that we got to be careful, because God is not the author of fear.
And it's so true, because you can go to the other extreme where you're like, everything's toxic, You got to be very careful with that.
Yeah. I mean, we were put on this earth to make him known.
Yeah.
Right? And like, we're going to be so distracted trying to not get a disease or trying to not get cancer or trying to whatever, that we're not even going to make him known.
Yep.
And like that, and like, so then it's like, what are we doing on this earth,
Yes, I'm with you. I'm so with you. I love the passion and the zeal that you have, because like I can relate, because I feel the same way.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like the zeal and the passion of our faith and how it does our ministry with our work can sometimes, I guess, off-put some people, even like personally other Christians. And so that's always been a challenge for me. I'm like, always I have to reel my way back, because I don't want to push too far or pushing too far people away. Do you feel that sometimes?
Oh gosh. I always feel like I'm the person in the room that everybody wants to water down,
Same.
But
that's a good way to put it. Water it down.
Yeah. Anytime I've ever tried to water myself down, it's never gone well,
Same.
So I just have to say, like, I just have to always check my heart and make sure that it's not about making Andrea known.
Yes.
And what Andrea knows, right? That even when I get zealous about the things I'm really passionate about, that like I'm still using that opportunity in that conversation to give God the glory and to point back to him, because I caught myself one time saying something about, I helped heal somebody. Like I think I said like flippantly in a sentence, and immediately my heart felt convicted, because I was like, no, I didn't heal anybody. Doctors don't heal anybody. The only person that heals anybody is God. And like in that moment, I thought to myself, hold on, check your heart.
Yep.
Change your posture. Remove the pride. Humble yourself, because this is not about you.
Yeah.
So
that's the same thing. The mental process I go through my head too is like when I'm have so much zeal, because the Lord has blessed me with so much zeal. I'm like very similar to you. I have to check myself like, okay, is this about the Lord? Is it about his great commission? Is it about moving his kingdom?
Right.
And if it is, triple down then.
Right.
Actually white knuckle it.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually go get it. And so I've actually got more confident with that now. Since I've had that kind of like that filter system of like, okay, is this about you or is this about others?
Yep.
And so that's kind of helped me, and I can just, it feels so good to know that you feel that same way.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about my blood work.
Okay.
There was 2 numbers that, I mean, obviously there's a heavy details we can go into, but we've already went through most of that detail. But I want to go over the 2 high numbers because I feel like I don't really have any symptoms per se. I want to be at least, have a little rash that sometimes I get hot or cold. It pops up sometimes. I told you about. I work out. I eat super healthy. I have really good sleep. But I had these 2 levels. I was like, this is kind of high. So I had, what was it? Ferritin was super high.
Right.
And then I also had cholesterol that was a little high. Normally people would freak out. I usually don't because I'm like, I kind of read the research on cholesterol. So I'm just like, okay, well, statin's been around because they've seen it. Money's going to make a whole bunch of it. Talk a little bit about cholesterol first.
Well, so in medical ranges, really anything over a 199, they're typically trying to put you on a statin. But in the functional world, and really understanding the difference in like functional ranges versus medical ranges, is functional ranges were medical ranges 50, 60 years ago. Okay, but our nation gets sicker every year. And now that window broadens, right? Like it widens, that window of those ranges, because we want 90% of the population to fit within that and be normal. Well, I'm pretty sure that like 90% of our population is not normal, right? They're sick, they're inflamed, like all the things, okay? So first of all, I think you got to understand the difference in the ranges. And then also know that really it was doctors that were trying to help get ahead of cancer decades ago. I mean, we're talking like 50, 60 years ago, before cancer really took the stage like it does now. They were actually trying to get ahead of it and look at blood ranges in a more narrow view to see if they could find anything trending that would show that cancer is coming. So between the study of that and kind of finding those little, I would say like windows within the broad ranges, right? And then also knowing that, I mean, there were just a lot of naturopathic and functional medicine practitioners over the years that just saw it get wider and wider. And they were like, that is not telling the story. So that's really the difference in the ranges, first of all. Secondly, with cholesterol, most of the tests that have been done out there and like the data and a lot of the research and stuff actually shows that unless your cholesterol is in like the mid to upper 300s, you're not really even at risk for like a heart attack. There's so many other things that are going on that are making that number climb. It's not necessarily that your cardiovascular system is failing you. And so I'm not saying that nobody should maybe ever be microdosed on a statin, okay? I think that there could be a way that drug could be used in a very microdosed way so the body does not become dependent on it and it doesn't just start suppressing our cholesterol and damaging our liver. And it can be used for a short period of time to kind of give the body a leg up. I believe that that's how those drugs and also things for diabetics and stuff were intended to be used 50, 60 years ago. But then because doctors couldn't move the needle at a small dose, guess what they did? The dose got bigger and it got bigger. And then the standard dose that they started people on eventually just became much larger than what I would have considered a microdose a long time ago. So I think you got to kind of preface with that to kind of understand like where we're at with especially something like cholesterol and being put on a prescription. I can't tell you how many clients will come to me. They'll have a cholesterol of like 205. And the first time it was showed above a 199, the doctor was already having a conversation with him about going on a drug.
Wow.
So if you weren't my client, maybe you saw a doctor, and you just kind of came to me on the back end because you said, hey, I just went to the doctor and they looked at this, like, what are your thoughts? They want to put me on a med. And I would say, I think that you need to tell them that you want 4 months to get that changed. And then I would tell you how to get that number down. Now, I'm talking if we were up around like 300 or something, right? If we were at 205, I would tell you to find a new doctor if they were trying to put you on a statin. And so that's really how I would explain that, because Cholesterol is one number in a lipid panel. You have multiple other subcategories in there. And it's not, we don't just want to look at cholesterol. We want to look at triglycerides, LDL, HDL. We want to look at particle sizes. There's so many pieces to that puzzle. Unfortunately, most people just look at the cholesterol and they see it red and they're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So cholesterol is formed in the liver, about 80% of it, and then about 20% comes from the food you eat, as far as like helping to form good cholesterol, which is why like healthy fats are like really important for that, right? Well, then your liver has to utilize that cholesterol and it gets distributed throughout the body. If the cholesterol gets built up because the liver's clogged and things aren't making it to where it needs to go, these numbers can rise. Just like I can get women who have really poor hormone health because their cholesterol is so low because they don't eat enough healthy fats or whatever's going on that the cholesterol is not the liver's not functioning at 100% to produce it, right? Whatever the situation is. So then they could be on the flip side. It could be really low. That can affect hormone health, brain health, a lot of things too, right? I love a good, robust cholesterol number. So your number didn't freak me out at all.
That's awesome. Because mine was 250, what was it?
Yeah. I would say, hey, if over the next couple of years that stays trending up along with other things,
yeah,
then maybe we need to do a little bit of a deeper dive and do more of a cardiac panel to look at some more particle sizes of your cholesterol, the different types of cholesterol, right? But not right out the gate.
Yeah. And I love too, like when I was like looking up like cholesterol, like I'm always looking up, what does it do well? Like, what is it for? I'm just like, it has all these benefits.
Yeah.
Like, why is this the bad guy? What do you do to you?
It's not. It's just big pharma. But anyway.
Now, ferritin.
Yeah.
That was down that number. When I seen that number, I was like, dang.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that you see this, especially within the liver, a lot because that is where we filter everything. It's like our motherboard of our computer.
Well, the ferritin is also a big marker for immune activation. We kind of talked about that a little bit because like you also had these elevated monocytes and eosinophils that's showing the immune system's under stress. You had a history of COVID, gut reactivity. It really kind of like fits perfect into this pattern. Like we kind of talked about that a little bit, like patterns that I see in the blood work. This is high, this is low, this is high, this is low. This pattern kind of shows X, right? And that's the beauty of like not just looking at one marker and going, oh my gosh, his ferritin's really high, right? And so I think really looking at the immune system and a dysregulated immune system and some other symptoms that you were having, like whether it was skin or gut and how all that's correlated, that inflammation is going to drive that ferritin level high. And like I mentioned to you, it's literally like an alarm sounding so that you pay attention to it and you do something about it. And that is what functional lab work does. It forecasts for the future. You're not bedridden right now. You're not, I mean, your day-to-day life is like pretty normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was surprised when I seen it.
Yeah. But that's the thing of like why we would want to use it makes sense why you'd want to use a more narrow range, because the wider that range is, there's a lot of people that are really sick that are normal in their blood work, right? Like they are experiencing a lot of symptoms, but their doctor will tell them, they'll come to me and say, everything was good. My husband went and had blood work done here in Oxford by a guy, and he said, hey, Joel, like everything looks good. I analyzed Joel's blood work. He had 18 markers out of functional range, including his testosterone. And so that's the biggest problem is people are walking out of these doctor's appointments. I think if I looked back on the actual lab before I had actually analyzed it, you had 2 or 3 markers that came back in the red, I think, right? But then you and I talked about it and there was like 20 markers, right? Or whatever it was. And nobody's going to have 0 markers out of functional range because nobody's body's going to be perfect. But all that to be said, that just shows the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's what helped me too, is just like I see the markers from at least the lab of like where they set the standard was. And then when me and you talked, I'm like, she barely even talked about the red ones. She was talking about mostly the other ones.
Yeah. Because like your cholesterol didn't freak me out, but it was one of the red ones, right? Like I'm just like, whatever.
Now I have this, obviously I'm around a lot of guys, and one particular, his testosterone tanked pretty bad. He seems like he gets good sleep. He works out. He's older. He's in his 50s. Is that common? And if it is, like obviously you'd have to know more information, but generally speaking, I know you probably worked with enough men.
Yep. I was going to pull up some numbers that would be kind of enlightening as far as like, well, first of all, when you're running testosterone, you obviously don't just want to look at testosterone total. We want to know free, we want to know bioavailable. And then we also want to know like sex binding globulin and some other things, because is testosterone getting into the cell? Okay. Hormones have to get into the cell. Cells have to be permeable. They're soft. I say they're kind of like a boba ball, right? You could like puncture, like something can get through the outer rim, right? And they can be penetrated. When your cellular health is a wreck from toxic exposure, viruses, right? I mean, like so many things can wreck our cellular health. And it makes those cells dead, dirty, damaged, slimy film on them, calcification around them. Now they're not permeable, so the signal can't get in. So you could check testosterone total, and that's just telling me like how much is just total in the body.
Right.
I don't know if it's being utilized. That's what's important to know. And like something I'll say with like even just free testosterone, you know, for a male from a functional standpoint, you know, gosh, I mean, it could be 100 points lower in medical ranges than what it should be, and it won't even get flagged. 100 points lower, and it won't even get flagged as being low. So there's a ton of men walking around right now with low functioning testosterone, and they don't even know it.
Wow.
Because it's not even being flagged, and their doctors are being like, my husband, great example. And I knew that his testosterone was low. There were so many signs.
Now, what was his level? Do you mind sharing what were his levels were?
I would have to go back and look. But it was
Was it
almost,
like in the hundreds?
Well, so testosterone total, which again, we would want to do the math and know what's free. But
Right.
even if you did just look at that one number,
Okay.
it could be below 500. It could be from 400 to 500 and still come back normal. But it needs to be at least like 700. Up to like 1,200, right?
Wow.
I mean, like, so, excuse me. Hopefully, people aren't just walking around trusting, right? That medical report is saying that their testosterone is okay. Now, there's a lot of reasons that somebody's testosterone could be low. I mean, I would have to look at their cholesterol. I'd have to look at infection and inflammation. I would have to look at their diet and make sure they have enough protein. And you know as well as I do, like most people, I don't care how much they're eating, they ain't getting close to near enough. If they're in here training with you, I'm sure they're training right, and they're doing enough.
Hopefully.
But if they're not, I don't know.
Right.
Like if people are just doing cardio every day and they're not building strength and muscle, then like their testosterone's going to suffer from that.
Yep.
So there's so many reasons that the testosterone levels can drop. But I just don't buy the whole like, it's kind of like women. Women used to never go into menopause until they're like early to mid 60s. Women are going in menopause I went in age 41.
Jeez.
So they just want to write it off and just be like, oh, it's just, you're old, or it's just later in life. And it's like, no.
Or they just pump you up with these hormones.
Why has that changed almost a 15 to 20 year difference of what it used to be? Girls used to not start their cycle until they were like 17 or 18 years old. Girls are starting their cycle at like age 10 and 11 now.
Yeah, that is crazy.
So many endocrine disruptors, so many hormones that are being jacked up from toxicity, like fluoride in our toothpaste. You talked about Dr. Edwards. I love her. I love everything she does at her practice. I feel like everybody in this town should be seeing her as their dentist. Like, she's amazing, right? Mm-hmm. But, mercury in your mouth, fillings, right? I mean, like the list goes on and on. The water you drink every day, like it's killing your hormones. Mm-hmm. But people are... guys will be like, well, I'm just going to get on creatine, or I'm just going to get on this. And I'm like, that is not going to change your testosterone level.
Yeah. One of my favorite mentors that mentored me through coaching, I was like, hey man, how do I help people get their testosterone up through exercise? He's like, sleep.
Oh yeah, that for sure.
And I'm like, okay, no, he said, literally sleep. Mm-hmm. Tell them to go to sleep. Especially these teenagers who stay up all night, tell them to go to sleep. They're not recovering.
Yeah. And caffeine. That's one that I missed. So these girls, and I see them every morning, they love to go to the loaded tea places. They love to go to the coffee shops in town. They love to drink the Celsius, the Alanis, all the things. They don't eat breakfast. They go to school with a drink in their hand, and that's their breakfast. And the boys do it. The young boys do it too. Okay. At a young age, we are already disrupting our hormones by imbalanced blood sugar and cortisol levels. It's already starting.
Yeah.
Because we are dehydrated, we are fasted, and we are pounding high levels of caffeine that like a teenager, an adult doesn't even belong drinking that. But I say all that to say is you never just wake up one day and it just like happened. You've been doing things to your body for a long time that have created issues. And I will tell you, I used to drink probably 600 milligrams of caffeine a day between like powders and coffees and whatever, right? I've never really been that woman that would just do caffeine in the morning on an empty stomach. I've always been a breakfast eater, and I've probably always done pretty good at eating protein in the morning. But I have a saying I get into nutrition with my clients because you have to a degree, right? But, some of my clients may be working with somebody else that's kind of handling their fitness and nutrition. They come to me for other stuff, and that's fine. I can do it all if I need to. I say all that to say, I cannot tell you how many women that will come to me. And when I ask them what their day looks like, and they're coming to me because either weight loss resistance, hormone issues, fatigue, whatever, and their breakfast is coffee. They're not hydrated. They're not fueled. They're just caffeinated. And they have thrown their cortisol like 10 times higher upon waking than it should have been. And then they've wrecked their metabolism for the day because they've now not put any fuel or protein in their body to start their day. So now their appetite, they're going to struggle all day long with their appetite and their cravings, right? And they wonder why they feel the way they feel. And it starts with the teenagers. In this town, I see them. I tell my daughter all the time, we'll go do maybe like a loaded tea once a week or a coffee once a week or something like that. We don't do it often. It's more of a treat. And she knows if she is going to have that she is going to have had her solid breakfast and been well hydrated before she has that. So I tell my women, hydration and protein before caffeine. Men should know this too, but I feel like men don't struggle with this as much as women. Maybe they do, and I just don't know about it. So anyway.
Yeah. No, I'm with you too. That's all. And the pushback that I get was like, well, if I drink my cup of water and I eat, then I don't want coffee anymore. I'm like, exactly. You're just proving my point. But I like my coffee. I'm like, just because you like something doesn't mean you should keep doing it.
Right. But, going back to like the whole testosterone thing, even like with my husband, that was one thing that we would conversate about a lot because like the grind of his job, stress, that will lower testosterone.
Yep.
Lack of sleep, that'll lower, like you just talked about. So there's so many things that people just don't necessarily want to put a finger on because they actually don't want to change it.
Right. And there's a mentor that I really enjoy being around, and he's a physical therapist, and he just looks at the body just such holistically too. He's very similar to us. He's like, hey, how you sleeping? How you doing this? Like, you to do the therapy stuff, but he's also going to see the whole picture. And I have so much respect for people who do that. Like, it's just, I like sending people like my clients to like now since I know somebody who does stuff in-house, and we have, we got to give the shout out to the blood clinic too that let us do that. Where did I go?
That was Oxford Urgent Care over there by Obie's. Is that the name of that restaurant in that shopping center? Yeah. The girl who runs it, her husband, Richard Barnett, used to work out here. I just forget. I'm missing her name, blanking on her name right now. But thank you so much for letting me come too. I know. I'm so grateful that we have a place in town that I can send people. I mean, I've been here almost over a year doing this, and I would having to send people to LabCorp in Tupelo or up to Memphis to LabCorp Request in like the Germantown area. And it's like, it's really hard to go up there fasted, right? Like you're like hangry by the time you get your blood work done.
So true.
All that being said, yes, they are very in tune with like what we are doing, on the functional side. And we're super excited to partner to be able to be a lab where people can go just do cash pay. Because going back to like, why would you cash pay versus insurance? Well, some people, they just don't want the hassle of going through insurance and trying to find a doctor to order the labs. Some people have an established PCP that they love. They could walk in tomorrow and they would order it for them. Awesome. If you can do that, great. A lot of people don't want to jump through all the hoops. And then a lot of times, even if insurance is going to cover it, it doesn't cover everything. So really you can do cash pay and it would probably have been your deductible. So a lot of people just want the freedom to be able to just go in and get it done. So we're grateful for having a place in town to do that.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Where was I going off? Oh, and that's why I love sending people to my mentor, or now since I have you, it's like, because then once you see them, I could call you and be like, this is what I know. This is what you know. What do you think I should do? Because you're diving deeper.
Yep.
And that's where you can build.
Right.
And like you can create like that, what I would call like the table, the round table.
Yep.
For that client, which
I love that.
I really want to keep doing.
It takes a team. It really does. It takes a team or an army or whatever you want to call it. I've got some hormone clinics, some hormone clinics across the country that I partner with, the guy that owns those. And so they do that a lot. He'll send me people that they're doing hormone therapy with or GLP-1 therapy or whatever it is. And he'll be like, man, we're just really struggling to move the needle. Like, what is going on? And so I'll be able to get blood work and kind of analyze it from a functional side and be like, hey, they're not responding cellularly to that therapy. So they're on testosterone therapy or they're on progesterone therapy, whatever it is not getting into the cell. They're really sick. They've got Epstein-Barr virus, Lyme, like whatever's going on. And the body is going to do what it needs to do to survive. And then everything else after that is going to take a back seat to survival mode. And I think people don't understand that because women will be like, well, my weight just won't move. And I'm like, because your body doesn't give a rip about your fat right now because it is literally holding on to that for survival. And until you make it feel safe and you heal some of these underlying conditions, the hormone therapy, even the GLP-1s and some of these things, weight training, diet, they're not really going to pay off.
Nope. So true. I'm so glad that you said that too, because there's a lot of people who get stuck and I'm like, you're pretty stressed out right now. I don't think that's, you're gonna have to dive deeper.
Yep.
It's so, and then what I've noticed too is now, if I have a client who's like more anxious, I don't give them high interval, high intensity training. I give them a lot more zone 2 training.
Right.
To calm them down. Cause it takes instant, they kick them up. And
Yep.
so I've been learning now to kind of see how people's personality is through this counseling courses that I'm taking now. I'm like, okay, this person is like monotone. He doesn't really get too excited. He's kind of like Eeyore.
Oh gosh.
And I'm like, all right, we're going to throw him on the bike, get him ramped up going. And then you have somebody who's like, Tigger, where do I want to go? I'm like, we're going to be on the bike for 10 minutes, easy pace. I have to go slow.
Yeah. So good for you.
So yeah.
That's funny.
I'm glad that you talked about the hormone clinics in the cells, because a lot of people don't realize that just because you're getting testosterone shots doesn't mean your cells have the permeability to access testosterone. Am I hearing you right?
Yes, that's accurate.
And so how would they would have to see your blood work from you, since they've already went down that train of why their testosterone is going up, to see why is the cell so threatened, or why is it so rough?
I think I used this term with you when we were talking on Monday going over your blood work when I said oxidation. So when you think about oxidation, like I think about like red meat in the refrigerator, and if the wrapping gets punctured and it starts turning brown.
Yep.
Okay. So oxidation in the body, like things will die. Like it'll kill your cells. It'll make your cells die early. Like I would say, like they just lived to be a toddler. They didn't make it all the way to be a mature adult, right? And so if we know these cells are supposed to be healthy and permeable and live 120 days in the body and have good cellular turnover, then there's a lot of things in the blood work that will show, are there too many free radicals? Not enough antioxidants, right? So the free radicals are kind of winning the war and the cells are dying early. Are they being oxidized, right? What's oxidizing them? Is it a bacteria? Is it mold? Is it just toxicity in general? Like what's going on that's kind of creating that, right? And so it just makes you kind of like dive deeper to figure out what is this underlying cause that is damaging my cellular health, so that the signal, thyroid is a big thing I deal with. I deal with a lot of women that come to me for thyroid issues. I've personally had thyroid issues.
Okay.
And so this kind of the same thing, that signaling with that thyroid hormone, so much has to do with the liver. So much has to do with your cellular health, because the liver it's a converter, right? So many things have to go. They go in the liver being one way and they leave the liver being another way. The way they leave the liver is very important, because if it's not a usable form, right? It's not been converted into a usable form by the body because either the liver was too tired to do that or too overburdened with toxins to do that, or the process was too slow, right? And it just didn't happen the right way. Then now all these things, whether that's B vitamins being methylated, vitamin D being converted, hormones being converted, if it doesn't leave the liver in a way to be used by the body, then it just gets lost in the body, right? And so that's how people can be taking all the things, wasting money on supplements, wasting money on therapies. I am a huge advocate for hormone therapy when done right. I definitely think that there are a lot of women and men walking around that could be optimized and that they are doing a lot of the right things, but their body just needs a little leg up. And I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with people running to that first.
That's a good point.
Because, like, what are we doing? Hormones are always downstream. There's always something happening up the waterfall and beyond, right, that went downstream and now affected the symptoms, hormone symptomatic profile, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't ever follow that back upstream and really address what's happening up here, you can do all the hormone therapy in the world. You can take thyroid, whatever you want to take. It is not going to work like it would if your body was healthier.
Right. No, it's so true because I've have multiple people in here or just people at the dirt bike track because I'm always around those guys and they're just like, yeah, I've been on the shot and just my testosterone is not going up. I'm just like, that's interesting. I just don't know anything about it. So I'm just like, I was like, you know me, I'm just like, how's your nutrition? How's your food? How's your sleep? And it's usually crap. But that's like I'm like, well, how about you attack the basics first?
For sure. Yeah.
But they look at me like I'm crazy because I'm not a doctor and that's not prescribed. Like, no, you just don't know what you're doing. Like white coat syndrome. Here we go.
I know. But I mean, the people that are out there, like the hormone clinic that I partner with, and I just work virtual with them because they're all over the place, but they do a lot of biohacking functional stuff, and they really do try to do things the right way, make sure foundations are good. I mean, not everybody does that because honestly, they've not been trained in that. And I think that's where in these fields that like you and I are in, we have to just like let our pride down and know like, hey, that's not the lane God called me to run in. I don't run in the hormone lane. I don't prescribe them. I don't inject them. I don't do any of that. Nope. I refer people to people that I trust, that I know are going to handle it the right way, and I stay in my lane. You get a lot of people out there that they want to be know-it-alls about everything, and it's like, that's not really helping anybody. Nope. Just specialize in what you're great at, but know that sometimes it takes an army. And you know what? I'll say this about taking an army. I have a lot of people that I work with that are on medications and that do work with doctors, and they don't want to come off their medications. They want to trust that they're on that for a reason, and they want to be on that, right? My job is not to take them off that medication. My job is to educate them on what that medication is actually doing to their body, any side effects or anything it could be depleting, right? Because there's always some side effect to a mineral depletion or something of any pharmaceutical. And I think people just need to understand that. There's also liver health on pharmaceuticals because they have to be processed through the liver. And I just want people to be educated, right? And I think that there are functional people out there that go hard no on pharmaceuticals, hard no on working with a doctor. You either do it holistic or you don't do it at all. And I think that there can be a hybrid approach there when done right in certain situations. And the goal, honestly, is to get people eventually off the medication by optimizing their body from a foundational standpoint, if that's what that individual wants.
Yep.
If they don't want that, it's about helping them understand I can only take you so far. Because there could be contradictions with homeopathics and medications that you're on, and I can't cross that path.
Right.
I don't want to cross that path because that's not right for the individual, and then also to protect myself. And I think I make that point because I think a lot of people think, well, I'm already working with a doctor, I'm on a medication, so I guess I just have to stay this route. Like I could never take a holistic approach, and that's not true. You can hybrid that, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I think you can learn and be educated, and then maybe 10 years from now, you see things different.
Yeah, that is so true. I like how you put that and it also helps that if people did want to work with you or work with anybody who's seen blood work in that lane, just because you're on medication and you don't want to get off doesn't mean they can't work with you. That's well said too. And what about women who've already had the women's surgery and got all their female parts out? The hysterectomy. How do you comfort them to be like, okay, this has already happened. this is what we could do moving forward to help you regulate whatever it needs to be regulated since you're missing that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have a lot of ladies that I work with that have had hysterectomies. So, I mean, it's just, and that's where I also say, that's why my in-depth screening is like so detailed when somebody comes to work with me, because everything matters. Surgeries you've had, fillings you have, not feelings, but like fillings in your mouth.
Yeah.
But also feelings that you have in your heart too. Childhood stuff that you went through, like it all matters.
Yep.
And if I know all that up front, then my treatment plan from a holistic standpoint is going to look a very unique way for that individual. So I wouldn't say across the board that every woman that's had a hysterectomy is going to kind of have like the same game plan, but hormone optimization is going to be very critical for somebody's body that can't produce hormones naturally like it was supposed to. But I still want to go backtrack and say, why did we have to have this hysterectomy? Like, I know that you're probably going to need some hormonal support, but beyond that, I need to know what even led us here. And there may still be some gut stuff going on, liver, all these other things that would still need to be addressed, you know?
No, I like that. It's man, I have learned so much in this conversation. I feel like I'm drinking out of a fire hose right now.
I know, I tend to do that. Sorry.
I'm just eating it up. Okay. You don't have to water down. I want you to water up.
Yeah. I love it.
Now, where can people find you? Because I know that you said you were really not active in social media. Like this podcast is kind of big for you to do, like for social media purposes.
Right.
Yeah. Where can people find you?
Well, The Blood Work Analyst is my website. It is my Instagram handle. And I would say, like, I'm not super active on social media, but even on my Instagram, I have a lot of story bubbles on there that have a lot of great topics that people can even go in and, like, if they were like, hey, I heard her talking about that strep thing. I wonder, you know, what that's all about, or how does Andrea feel about GLP-1s or whatever. Like, there's a lot of little hot topics and some of those little story bubbles on my Instagram page just over the years where I've collected stuff and put it in there. So there's still some great things that people could find. I think my biggest struggle is I just don't love to be on social media, but I'm working on it because getting the message out is helping people.
That's right.
And sometimes that's the reach, right? And so I do want people to know that, like, yes, that is something that I still do, even though I don't love it. My website is really informative. And there's a lot of client testimonies on there. A lot of people that I've read their blood work over the years, and they're just so mind blown by finding things that their doctors always missed. And they share that in the testimony section. So a lot of people like to see that. But the other thing I will say about my website that I'm really proud of, first of all, I did it all by myself.
That's awesome.
I've never had anybody help me with marketing, designing, anything. I've just always, and that is honestly because I really want to keep my overhead as low as possible to be affordable to people. With that being said, there's a lot of people out there and they're like, oh, I'll do a discovery call and then I'll tell you how much it's going to be. Nope. You go to my website, you know exactly what it's going to cost to work with me. You know exactly what it costs to do a consult. It's all right there because I want people to know up front what they're looking at. And if I'm not the person for them, then I don't want to waste their time and I don't want to waste mine. So I'm very transparent on my website about what it looks like to work with me. So you can just go to thebloodworkanalyst.com and pretty much find anything that you need.
That is so awesome that you built your own website. I had no idea.
Listen, I don't know. I'm the find a way. I'm like the MacGyver. I'm like MacGyver.
I'm with you. I just
like find a way, or I'll make it myself or whatever. But I think honestly, so my dad, I shared earlier, he's a mechanic, and like we're from kind of a small town up in East Tennessee. And I think in however many years my dad's been working, he's hardly ever went up on what he charges for the work he does. And that is not because he's not worth more. That is because he wants to be affordable to everybody, because he wants anybody to pull up at his shop and be able to get their car fixed.
Yeah.
And that I feel like is something so I spent almost $20,000 when I was sick. Holistic fertility care, mold care, so much stuff. It created a lot of financial stress, a lot of strain in my marriage. It was really hard, but I was sick and I just couldn't get answers. And I spent a lot of money to go to school too.
Yeah.
And I understand the investment, but I want people to get well.
Yep.
And I would say in my field, most people charge about 3 to 5 times what I do.
Oh yeah. I mean, I paid the price. You're nowhere near.
And it's not because I'm not worth it, because I could.
Yeah.
My clientele I want anybody to be able to afford me.
Yep.
And that's where my heart's at. And I have people all the time, business people, oh my gosh, Andrea, you should charge more. You should do this. And I said, you know what? Until God tells me, I ain't moving.
Yep.
And this is where I'm at because this is where my heart's at, you know? And it's a financial sacrifice no matter what. But in my mind, if I'm helping somebody get well, God continues to provide because he keeps sending people my way. So something's going right,
No, yeah, you ain't gonna know. Yeah, there's no shortage of traffic going your way. That's for sure. That actually might be your bottleneck eventually, where it's just like, hey, I'm 6 months. I'm gonna have to figure this out.
I know, right? It's like I can't. Yeah, I mean, right now most people can usually get an appointment with me within like 2 weeks. You know, give or take a little bit around
Which is
the
good.
holidays.
That's a good cushion.
But yeah, I mean, there were times that I needed to get in with people and I had to wait 6 months.
Jeez.
And it's like, man, I don't have 6 months. Like I'm on my deathbed, you know?
Yeah.
So I also, when you talk about like just in a business standpoint, I've never really had to, like, the crazy thing is it's never been so much that I couldn't handle. I like the influx, right? That I couldn't still be personable one-on-one with all my clients, give my attention to them, but not be working myself into the grave either, right?
Right.
The balance has always managed itself. It's really interesting with the metrics on that because it's not anything that I did,
Yep, but just working.
It just did, yeah.
Oh, last question before we close. What is your initial thoughts on GLP-1?
I've actually microdosed tirzepatide myself.
Okay.
Personally. I think that microdosing, most people think that they're microdosing, but they're really not.
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
So microdosing, most like tirzepatide, like compounded tirzepatide is in units. And when you talk about using like 5 units, I mean, you're talking about like on a syringe needle. I mean, it's so tiny you can barely even see it, right? That's microdosing. And that's where you get the anti-inflammatory benefits of something like tirzepatide, right? I'm not in agreement with the pre-filled pens and things that insurance cover because those are pre-filled pens and it's a mega dose. And the problem with that is where you have the side effects. That is where there is some data showing that you can have some health issues. When you microdose the compounded forms and you get it from a legit pharmacy, right? This is the key here because this is a very hot topic. There are a lot of people out there producing this stuff and you don't really know what's in the bottle. And now you're injecting it into your body. This is why I tell people, you work with a practitioner. You work with a skilled medical practitioner that is licensed and has a clinic and knows what they're doing. You don't go buy this online from somebody that's doing a direct sales model and just trying to hustle you some GLP-1s.
Right.
This can be scary.
Yep.
Number one, that's the first thing I would say. Number two, I do believe that in the right place that it can be beneficial. But to get the anti-inflammatory benefits and actually use it right, you have to be dosed properly. And there's a way that you scale that up and scale that down. There's a way you have to eat. There's working out, building your lean muscle. All of those things have to be in place. And you have to have good gut health. And you have to have a good, strong liver. And if you're not doing those things and you're taking these GLP-1s, these are the clients that I get on the back end that did it the wrong way. And I'm having to correct a lot of stuff.
Man.
And then they're gaining all that weight back. And that is not good because that rebound weight gain, as you know, the type of fat we put on when we rebound weight gain is the really unhealthy, like around your organ kind of fat.
Yep.
And can create fatty liver and stuff like that. And these are the conversations that there are a lot of people in functional holistic medicine that are totally for these compounded GLP-1s that are done right. But a lot of people are taking advantage of the emotions of people. And from a financial standpoint, a lot of people are really benefiting off these drugs right now. And their heart is not truly to serve the individual, it's to serve their wallet. And I think that's where people have to really, again, you got to prayerfully consider every decision you make.
Yep.
So.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been great. We're actually run out of time. That's why I have to, which is great. So that way you can go coach softball. All my blood work will be on another video that we did through Zoom. So you guys can check it out in more detail. And then also you'll have in the description, you'll have ways to contact Andrea at any time, whether through her website or through her Instagram handle. And you mind if I pray for you?
I would love that.
Awesome.
Okay.
Dear Father, thanks for the opportunity for Andrea to come on the podcast and just the hard work that she's put in to study blood work and just to serve your kingdom. And I just pray a blessing over her family, over her daughter, over her husband as they continue to be a light for the kingdom and to continue to push their ministry, whatever work they do, to glorify you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Yeah.